I'll get him nervous.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Community Preservation Committee meeting of December 18th, 2012. Tonight, we're meeting in the third floor meeting room at Town Hall. We have on our panel tonight representatives from all the boards, starting in no particular order, but working from, well, your left to right. Mr. Kyle Schrader, Chair of the Conservation Commission. Mr. Paul Nelson, the representative from the Affordable Housing Task Force. James Davenport, representative from the Historical Commission. Jim Demento, representative and chair of the Park and Rec Commission. Myself, I'm Harry Locatier, I'm from your planning board. We have Elizabeth Davidson, representative and chair. You're the chair of the Housing Authority?
Anymore.
Not anymore, the former chair of the Housing Authority. And Mr. Dick Talbot, chairman of the Open Space Committee. Without any further ado, we're gonna call this meeting to order at 7:40 PM. And if someone would be kind enough, it'd be nice to take care of a bill or two. That's a call for a motion, if
I'll
anybody.
make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
Mr. Shredder moves to pay the bills. Is there a second for that?
I think I said that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Paul.
Mr. Paul, yes.
Mr. Paul, Mr. Nelson. Seconds?
I'll second it.
You have to arm wrestle Paul for it. You already did that.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so let's go through them pretty quickly if we can. Should be your second page. First two, Carl, you can bring everybody up to speed on this. These are K&P bills. Hampden septic system. Bid documents for the septic system, $297.50. And another one, conversations with the town administrator, preps for the Campden septic system. Another insurance requirements from the town administrator. And, well, doesn't really take all that much discussion.
No,
You can see this, the Concom both gave their approval at the 12-13 meeting. Any great discussion or questions?
No, this is just part of the ongoing
Carl signed these.
activities down there. Is one of the previous CPC approvals to, install the septic system.
All part of the historic restoration of Camp Dennison, right?
Correct.
Yep. And it just goes to show you that there's hidden costs when people are usually estimating the amount of money that they believe they're gonna need for the project. Price creep occurs. Again, another one from the same account from Georgetown Building Supply. You'll see your invoice routing form from Peter Durkee. He and the boys did some work down there. He's signing off on it. As you can see, the Concom signed off on it. That one's for $1,318. And that one is, what is that one for, Cal? Concom Camp Dennison's how it's listed.
I think that was sent for
Building
some
supply invoice there.
buildings, that was
Materials at the.
material and
camp.
also, I thought there was some labor that I could sign.
No, this is just the materials invoice. 36 foot by 20 NDS. Sounds like pipe. They do the culvert?
That's from the culvert.
At the culvert?
Yeah, must be.
Great. Any questions on that one?
Yeah, there was a previous labor one related to this I had signed off on.
Yep, I'm sure you did. Any questions? And last but not least from that one, just it would appear to be a Home Depot charge. And there's the receipt. Again, Camp Den. You have your receipt. Betty, there? Your receipt, okay?
Yep.
Okay, good. And that's for CPAP 73. Flipping forward. Georgetown Housing Authority. Betty, you could probably fill us in on this one.
The main door going into the facility was in terrible shape, and it had to be replaced. And of course, that has to be done.
The storm doors?
No, the main door going in.
No,
the
we're
community
referencing
building?
the bill
Oh,
for
I'm sorry.
$3,807.
That's it.
And here's your invoice
Yeah,
detail?
Housing Authority.
Yep.
I believe it was, now I don't know then. Wait a minute.
This storm door,
Yes,
Yeah,
that's storm
it
doors.
was the storm door,
Storm doors.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. And, any questions on that? Being none, we'll move forward. And, the next one from the Housing Authority, NETR, this would appear to be the installation of the, HVAC heating units,
Yes.
$50,350.
That was, okay. That was down Trestle Way?
Yes.
Does this complete the work there? We know?
No,
Okay,
but,
okay,
little by little.
yep.
But that place hasn't had any main or any really good renovations for a long time.
Right, right.
Yeah, I think it was a $67,000 appropriation.
And that was specifically for the heating, air
Renovation of the
conditioning,
community, the
wasn't it?
community room, what's called
Yes.
community room.
Yes,
yes.
yes.
Wasn't there a generator as part of that as well?
Yeah, that's not in
I
yet,
believe that
is
was
it?
That was a
another
separate
project.
app,
That was-
I
that
think,
was a
yeah.
separate app.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
This, I think, this was heating and air conditioning,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Yeah.
To my knowledge,
Okay.
if I recall. I can pull it up and give you the exact wording, but
No, no, I thought that. I just wanted to bring it up, make sure no one flinched.
okay, if you're satisfied with it.
Okay, I'm
I
fine.
just happen to see a comment charging with Freon.
yeah, that's a good question, yeah. Interesting.
Somewhere else it said just refrigerant,
Yeah, I mean, there would normally
Maybe
be
that's
some.
just a,
one would hope.
I'm,
an old, kind of antiquated term that,
I'm hoping that.
I'm sure,
Yeah,
sure it is.
Don't worry, it's 200 feet away from the pond.
With, does anyone have any, further questions about any of the bills?
no.
Great, I'm gonna call the question. Carl made a motion to pay the bills, Mr. Nelson seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Great. If we could begin signing off.
Okay.
Send these that way if you could. Okay, moving forward. Correspondence, just so you know, the town accountant has revised the CP2 form. There was a little bit of a misreport done when the town received a grant from Driftway Farm from E EOEEA. And Steve, remind me, how much was that, $153,000 grant that they received from, under self-help funds? Naturally, because the original appropriation came from the open space reserve. When these monies come back into the community preservation fund, they have to be assigned to the open space reserve from which they came. And unfortunately, through an accounting mishap, it just ended up going into the undesignated fund. Mary, our town accountant, has corrected that. She's moving forward. She's notified DOR. And what you see is the 2012 revised CP2 form.
Yeah.
Copy of it for your records. It's on file with DOR now. All signed off. All done. Just wanted to let you guys know about that. We are
Open
responsible
space
for
now
that.
has 272 K. Yeah, right.
That's the expenditures, Paul.
Let's
Flip
see
the
what
page.
other one.
Flip one more page up. You'll see the balance, the fund balance is 300,000.
300, okay, right.
300,000,
Kyle, that's gonna go the
300,
other side.
2,075, 3. Right, we all on the same page?
Yep.
Great. We have a lot of folks in the audience tonight. The clock is ticking. The first project suggestion we have for review tonight is Willowbrook Farm. Suggestion for a conservation restriction on Willowbrook Farm. If you flip, you'll see the original project suggestion. The original suggestion was submitted by none other than the Chair of the Concom, Bob Fredder himself. And gentlemen, if you'd be kind enough to please introduce yourselves for the record.
Hi, Steve Pajomski, Conservation Agent. My name is David Santamena. I'm the Director of Land Conservation for Essex County Greenbelt.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Please, someone tell us what all about this project. We know nothing about it. This is the first we've heard of it.
Well, I should just say, Greenbelt's pleased to be working with the Conservation Commission on this potential project. We were really pleased with the Driftway Farm project that was wrapped up this year. We thought that was a great town Greenbelt collaboration. We see this as sort of the next phase of that collaboration, which we'd very much like to continue to pursue going forward. I think there's lots of good conservation opportunities in Georgetown, and we want to keep working on those with the town. This is a different horse of a different color, I guess you could say. What's proposed here is the purchase of a perpetual conservation restriction over 18, give or take, acres of the Wheeler Brook Farm property. You folks are more familiar with this property than I am. Actually, I'm here this evening substituting for Vanessa Johnson, who is the project manager, but who was unable to come as she had an obligation in Haverhill with the city council. But this is really an ag preservation project as much as it is a land preservation project. The land will be preserved, but the intent is to keep it in an active agricultural use. For the near term, the expectation would be that would be the current owners of the Wheeler Brook Farm property, but the intent again is to make the property be available in perpetuity for agricultural purposes, regardless of who the operator of the farm operation may be. So we really focused on the agricultural resources of the property. It has excellent farm soils. It's obviously been in agricultural use for a long period of time. In Essex County, we actually have lots of farms that have been operating on terrible soils for centuries. Happily, this property actually has decent agricultural soil, so it's doubly blessed. It does have, as you would expect from the name of the property, Wheeler Brook, which more or less defines that southeasterly boundary of the property, is an important natural resource as well. That brook, riparian quarter, nice habitat. I'll just quickly walk you through the proposal. Basically,
David, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt you. Steve, do you have handouts for the board?
I just have copies of the restriction, the conservation restriction, and
Please
Yep.
let us have any documentation you have. Would be great to have it.
You know.
I need to have it for the record.
maybe I'll
Feel
keep
free to
talking while
distribute.
Steve's doing
Feel
that.
free to
We
just. I
can do
just.
two things at one time.
Sorry, my
Sure.
apologies, David.
So obviously, here's George Street. It's been realigned on a couple of occasions, which has caused like this sort of teardrop shaped parcel to be created. But this is the core of the farm here. This is existing dwelling here. Existing dwelling here, which is on the assessor's lot, but which is proposed to be subdivided off and put on its own lot.
Is that going to be A&R?
Yes.
Has that been filed?
No. It's somewhere in the process. It's part of the larger plan of the property.
Okay, thank you.
Obviously, this is the core of the farm property. The farm stand is here. This is an existing
Someone passing along.
yield.
It's just one.
So the whole property is made subject to the restriction. There are some special provisions in the restriction for this area here, as well as this area here. One of the elements of maintaining the viability of a farm around here these days is giving folks an opportunity to add value to the products they're creating that they're growing on the property, which can be done through farm stands. So we are providing for expansion or enhancement of the farm stand operation, again, in the interest of maintaining the viability of the whole operation. And then some additional field creation in the back of this as well. And then this field can be, I think over the years it's been, it's getting hemmed in more and more by the vegetation, so there is the ability to push the boundaries of that field back in both directions to, again, maximize the utility of that particular field. It's not a huge amount of land, but what we're finding more and more in agriculture in Essex County is people are able to do more intensive forms of agriculture more different kinds of things can be grown. And that's really the model people are moving towards, is smaller, more intense cultivation, more value added. This has historically been a pick your own and farm stand operation. In the future, there's the potential to do, a CSA, community supported agriculture operation, if that's the direction the operators want to go in. That would certainly be on the table. So there's sort of nice variety of options for the operator of the property.
Are those two lots or just one lot right now?
It's one, I believe it's one lot inclusive of the house here, and then this is a separate lot.
Yeah, but the back field, is that part of the original lot
Yes,
with the
it
front
is.
field?
Yeah.
And
What
this
is it that-
includes part of a lot that is another lot as well. I mean, we're not looking at lot lines there.
No, we're not.
There's
But if we
multiple
did,
lots. There's multiple
there's
lots.
multiple
That
lots.
teardrop, double teardrop shape is actually its own
That's
lot.
its own lot.
Right.
So there's
Okay.
multiple lots, and then there's combining a lot that, has a house attached to it, that they're chopping off the back half and including it in this restriction.
Right.
So it doesn't look anything like then what the lot map does that comes from the,
The only difference is this line here.
yeah, that line's totally
Everything
different.
else on that side of it is the same. So this double teardrop, this outline, this house lot isn't changing.
Right.
None of the other lot lines. I think the original line cut like
Yep,
going through
and then,
here
then went backwards.
and then
from
went
there.
backwards. So this little jog in there is the only change that, and again, it's not on the town maps yet. It will be shortly.
Is that being filed?
I don't know what stage. It's engineered, the engineering drawings are done. I think they're just waiting to bring it to the planning board with the filing fee. It's in progress somewhere.
It picks up a lot of wetlands, it looks like.
Yes, sir, it does.
And there's language in the restriction that addresses wetlands, obviously, as well as agricultural uses. So there's protection for both habitats, riparian resources, and agricultural uses.
So what you're saying is if the CR is granted, then the land itself will retain its farming only restriction. And
Yeah.
so for the next 10 years, 5 years, the change would be zero.
And that's the expectation, but if there was a change in ownership next year, the restriction stays in place, and whoever takes it over has to operate within the confines of that restriction. There is, within the restriction, an affirmative obligation to keep the farm in active use. In other words, the intention is to not just have it become open space,
Right.
which is fine, but this particular property, the goal is to keep it as part of the agricultural land base. And so that's why the affirmative obligation to farm the property is in there, which is, it's atypical of open space restrictions, but it's typical of ag restrictions, which is really what this is.
Stupid question. Why are we calling it a conservation restriction when it sounds like it's an agricultural restriction?
That's just
It's
the,
walking like a duck, and it's not quacking like one though.
Well,
we're
I
talking
think-
about livestock?
I mean, I think it's an agricultural restriction, which we've also probably incorporated some conservation concepts as well.
It's just a function of what the tool is called in the legislation, and they're called conservation restrictions, whether they're
Well,
ag-oriented or,
in the CR itself, I mean, there was significant language about the wetlands and about the watershed protection and whatever for the
right,
Wheeler Brook, which is a tributary to the Parker River.
Right.
So there are conservation overlays to this. I mean,
Yeah.
that's,
I mean, conservation it's a little bit of a misnomer in some senses. I mean, we do restrictions, we call them conservation restrictions, but they have significant, active forestry components to them. In other places, that would be called a forestry easement. We just don't have that terminology here. So maybe just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, the interesting thing is, not so much that it's being done, because it looks like it's probably the right thing to do. The question is it a good value for what we're paying for it? And one of the things that when I was reading through the document, the value of the land was actually created by using a highest and best use algorithm. And so that means even lands that are next to ponds or next to the river are valued at the maximum acreage they could get as if they were a development process. And that doesn't seem quite
Yeah,
logical.
I worked with, I've been working on this project for the 6 years I've been here, trying to assess what could be done out there as far as development. And when the appraiser came in, and I worked with the previous planner, Nick, and the present planner, Howard, the assessor comes in and really they build their yield plan based on talking to the different town departments. So the yield plan of 4 houses out here is fairly realistic under an OSRD subdivision plan. Now, given there are a lot of wetlands and a lot of restrictions,
Right.
we probably did 30 or 40 different sketches of concepts of what you could do out there. So yes, there are 2 of those lots would need waivers from the Conservation Commission, but they're similar to other projects that have been approved by the Conservation Commission in the past 2 or 3 years.
Right, and that's fine, but again, what they used as a measuring stick was highest and best use. In
Maybe
other
if I
words,
could just clarify what the definition of highest and best use is.
it means the maximum value you can get out of a piece of property is what
Yeah,
I
but you
read.
have to, what the appraiser does is apply a test of what's physically feasible and legally permissible. So when they arrive at their highest and best conclusions, that's having looked at wetland setbacks, it's having looked at all the dimensional requirements, it's having looked at soils for septic, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not just a geometric exercise, it's highest and best use, given all of the various constraints on the property.
Yeah, I didn't see that in the.
Can I just
in the document.
interrupt when
Yep.
this committee asks and jobs out an appraisal for a parcel of land?
Yep.
Every parcel of land that the town has ever purchased with CPA funds had an appraisal done by this board. And yeah, that is the matrix that you run it off of, Paul. It's the highest and best use.
That's the
Is what's
terminology.
considered the value, the appraised value is highest and best use. And
Right.
typically, pretty much, without any exception, residential development is the highest and best use of a parcel, is the highest
Right,
amount you're
but
gonna get.
usually, like, in land where there's a lot of waivers that have to be granted, the value of that land is inherently less.
Let's not kid ourselves. When an appraiser appraises, they have certain standards that they have to go by. It's unique that OSRD was mentioned because OSRD is a special permit. But
Right.
I'm sure that the
We-
appraiser did his job, his or her job.
We looked at the
and-
traditional subdivision, and they
and
could get 4.
traditional subdivision, a by right subdivision plan, I'm sure, was used, or, you said 4 lots, 4 A&R lots, 4 Form A lots,
Yeah.
that just have the appropriate frontage, width, depth, et cetera, that you can derive your value from that as well. So, and again, bear in mind that,
The, in fact, the memo, one of the August 6th memo that we
oh, that we
received
received
today.
tonight.
The
Okay.
summary
Show-
appraisal.
Yeah, shows that this actually is very good value for what we'd be paying for it.
I don't know. I didn't
I
recall
thought-
seeing that one.
Well, there was let me just review some of the appraisal that's been done today, which we had a
Yeah.
full narrative appraisal done of the fee interest. In other words, the full ownership interest in the property, which is, yay thick, and which I think does get into a fair amount of detail in terms of how the appraiser arrived at the highest and best use.
Yeah,
Right.
just for the record.
Yeah.
The value of the land in the appraisal was submitted to us and was determined by, what was the name of the group, I'm sorry?
What's Walden Associates, Jim Catterton is the appraiser.
Jim Catterton.
Catterton, yeah,
Great, thank you.
yeah.
Great. And what was the arrived at amount that Mr. Catterton appraised the highest and best used?
500 and some thousand.
570.
570.
Right.
Highest and best use was 570,
Yeah.
570K.
And
Great.
after the CR, the value is like 85,000.
Right.
Right.
The value of the
Land after
the
the CR is
development value
applied.
of the land is subtracted out.
Right. The difference between the before
Mhm.
and the after
Mhm.
is $485,000. So that is the value of the CR.
485 is the development.
Or just land value.
It's the
That's-
what it is technically, not to get technical about it, is the diminution in value caused by the conservation restriction.
Right.
Because you can't build on it.
Right. So now its highest and best use is agricultural land, basically.
Great.
So then just to take that the next step, so we have, just assuming that the appraisal's sound, a value for the CR of $485,000. The agreement that's been reached with the owners is a $200,000 purchase of the property. I'm sorry, $250,000 purchase of the property.
Purchase
So-
of the CR.
Of the CR property,
We're
right.
not buying this in fee simple.
No, no, right, sorry, the property being the CR in this instance.
Okay, so,
So just,
Uh,
basically.
negotiated price, if you
Yeah.
will.
So it's about a 50%, what we call bargain sale. So that basically the owner there's a charitable component to the deal that he's agreed to do. So he's donating about half the value of the restriction to the town, essentially.
250,000.
Yeah. So
So-
Greenbelt has agreed that we would be responsible one way or the other for coming up with $50,000 of that 250, which we would expect to do through maybe some foundation grants we would prepare and submit, private fundraising, things of that sort. And so the net of that is the request that the town consider a $200,000 investment in the restriction. And maybe this would be a good moment to talk about the potential land grant.
So I would be applying for another land grant. So just like the Driftway project where we got 153,000 back, it reimburses 60% of the total purchase price. And so.
So the
as part of
request
it-
is for 200?
Yeah, so that's what the suggestion, I don't think the suggestion form I submitted actually had a dollar figure.
Right.
The dollar
So
figure
actually,
is
some of the money
200,000.
you would be spending this time, or want to spend this time, would be money that came back into the kitty.
I
from
was
the
gonna
last
say
time.
that, but I'm glad you did,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Because I think that's important for you guys to recognize that we are doing due diligence to bring money back into the fund. Bringing back 153 is a amount of money.
One of
It's
the
it's
criteria we look
significant.
at is it actively able to have, can we put in for state money, can we get some kind of a reimbursement from the state? And that's one of the criteria that I'm sure the members use when they
So-
make a decision.
So we will be applying for a land grant.
Great, that's great to know. Land grant from EOEEA, is that the letters they're using this week?
This week.
The only part I really don't, being the park and rec, I was hoping that backfield could be put under passive and active recreation. It would allow the person, if he's not making ends meet, he could lease that backfield to the GAA or someone who could run U12 soccer games to a point at which he could, locking it down as passive recreation for life. That also borders Martell eventually. And it's just that it's another flat field that we're gonna have taken away from the potential fields that we could use in town. I would not have a problem with the front parcel, just that one square section in the back. You know, someone could, U12 could go down and have soccer games and go out to the field and pick blueberries. I thought it'd be more of a community center if something like that was taking place. There is now, no one in the community is gonna be down there.
That's not an option right now.
It's not an option, but it's also gonna determine how many votes you get at town meeting.
Is that something that can be
It's
worked?
still private property, though.
But someone could lease it, the private owner could lease it to the GAA or someone.
Right.
Kids go down, play soccer.
So the question is, would the restriction prevent that from occurring? I mean,
Right.
if
It would.
Bob or a subsequent owner of this land
think the way it is,
did
it
want to do
would.
something like that,
As drafted and based on the intent, I think it would not allow that. I mean, if there's again, an affirmative right or affirmative obligation that the landowner is taking on to farm the property, I think the expectation would be that would,
But it's still 5¼ acres for a farm in Massachusetts. Taking that little section away would still give you 16 to 15 acres of usable land. What you're doing, you're asking the town to spend money and once again walk away and not use the property, or have the potential to use it in the future.
Which portion do you?
That
mean?
last backfield is flat and straight,
you're talking about this one, Riley?
that one right there. So, I mean, it's,
Southern portion.
you know, I'm just saying, I'm not saying it would happen, I'm saying you're basically locking it out for potential.
But what you're trying to do with doing this, though, is to give the owner of the property the ability to make this a real going business.
Sure. I mean, more
And
real-
make it if they want to, rather than having it as a small business, to make it a more productive agricultural business.
Right, so what would be more productive than bringing people down to your site every
We're
day?
growing more vegetables that would produce more money.
What
would be
happens to a
more
nice flat
productive.
piece of land in Georgetown? It becomes a house lot.
It does.
well, interestingly enough, with this particular property, and I'm sure everyone's aware of it, everyone on this board is aware of it, and I'm sure you guys are as well. This particular parcel, with the exception of that half a lot that we're not
Mhm.
delineating there. This is all under chapter 61, and it has been for quite a number of years. They receive a special tax break. I think the whole property is valued at something like $14,000 or something like that by the assessor's office, in spite of the fact that it's, 18, 14 acres. The town, in a sense, has been subsidizing the farm with the understanding that if it should ever not be a farm, that the town would have first option to
Well, sure.
pay that 500,000, buy it and use it for, well, agriculture, for conservation, for active rec, for whatever.
Right.
I think that's where Jim might be going. The town always would have had that option. It wouldn't necessarily go directly to a changed use for residential dwellings. The town has that right of first refusal under chapter 61.
Right, and that's assuming the town can come up with the money and do the, I mean, those don't happen very often that quickly.
It's 120 days.
It's
You have
still-
120 days with the number of, that was just changed in 2010 in June. And there are a number of clock stoppers, if you will. You can hit the timer. Dave can probably tell you more about that. He's probably far more
Yeah.
familiar with
Yeah.
that than I.
I also want to bring up some of this, I heard 13, 14 acres. In tillage right now, there's only 7 acres that are actually active being used for farming. And so,
But
one,
I believe it's 14 under chapter 61.
correct, but I'm talking active in plantable soil areas, 7 acres, give or take. If you remove the back field from it, you're reducing the amount of acres you have in actual production. And so I think you could really make an argument for keeping it. I mean, there's an argument for soccer fields. There's often an argument to keep a viable business. You need that back land to produce fruit and vegetables to sell, to make it a viable option. Because small farms haven't hard enough time. If you cut the total acres into 5, saying
I
did a soccer
disagree. I
field or
think if you
something.
took that back acreage and you leased it to the GAA at a certain amount of money, depending if he wasn't doing well, once he's got reestablished, to have that option open is just something that the owner could have. If he's making it ends meet, he doesn't lease it. If he doesn't then make ends meet, he basically considers it. It doesn't have to be in perpetuity. He can do it for 3 years, or he doesn't do it at all. What you're doing is I'm just saying, you're asking all the people in town to basically put a conservation restriction on something that they won't even go enjoy. I mean, they do enjoy I'm just putting another avenue, another spin on it. You're gonna lose votes because you're not putting that potential there.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from exactly, and we're it's an issue we deal with in virtually every town that we're working on conservation projects. And then there are instances where we can incorporate an active rec component into a larger project. I think this is a relative, in the great scheme of things, not a huge project. I think it would have an impact on the viability of the farm if that were taken out of the mix. So I think we're accomplishing a bunch of things with this project, but I don't think that among them can be active rec.
Well,
David, I haven't had a chance to, I'm sorry, I haven't had a
I'm just gonna
chance
ask
to
it,
read through.
like the land under cultivation right now is what, some 7 acres is whatever it is?
7 plus, yes.
Is there any other land there's potential in that property for cultivation?
The expansion potential is pretty much the hatch marks. So the backfield could be expanded to the southern rock wall and the top by the road, that hillside where they could put a barn. You can maybe do some trellising on the hillside, so it's got some potential. But as far as expansion for row crops, the backfield, you might be able to get another half an acre, 3/4 of an acre out of it. But it's restricted. It has Wheeler Brook that
Yeah.
cuts directly through the middle of the property, wetlands on a few other sides. So its expansion potential is very limited, unless you want to start doing you could do some tree and shrub planting along the borders that would act as a buffer to the resources, but you're really supposed to leave those areas kind of alone. As a
So the property on the left-hand side that we just added in there, that
wet.
partial lot, it's all wet?
Yeah, there's no expansion potential in that direction.
Which is why it was added in.
Okay, so just to summarize, the way the restriction is written right now, the way things are right now, Mr. Morehouse or any subsequent owner of the trust, whoever owns it, could actually rent that or lease that field if he or she chose to GAA or any outside agency for field, for active recreation. But if this restriction goes on, it's private land and he's under no obligation to not do it. But
What's
once
the-
this restriction, if
Oh,
it were to
okay,
go
I
into
see where
place,
he's going.
he would not be, he nor any subsequent owner of the land would be able to do that. Is that right?
Not
or-
rent it for,
Not be able to rent it, it would,
for
it would be
active
prohibited.
recreation. It could
It
be
would be
used.
prohibited.
Well, it
from
wouldn't be
that way.
prohibited per se, but active rec would not be among the allowed uses subject to the restriction.
What are the allowed uses?
Well, they encompass all the
Horseback
all the
riding.
all the agricultural stuff.
That's not
Raising of
agriculture.
horses, raising of,
Hunting, horseback riding would be it.
Horseback riding?
you
Really?
can do everything but kick a soccer ball, right?
It's it's
So, you know, I
It
mean,
limits the
my,
amount of, like,
my idea is, you know, if you, and my kids are now full grown, but it would be a nice thing, and I'm just putting this out as a potential. Kids go to a soccer game, they're right there, they go to the vegetable stand, they buy some vegetables. And I'm not saying that would ever even happen, but you're basically taking out, so he's got 300 or 400 people an hour going through his farm stand, it becomes a community farm. People are going up there, and maybe he doesn't do that, but I'm saying, you know, you're asking someone to take that piece of land and potentially he could have many more people going through his farm. It's much more of a community center. And if it doesn't happen, that's fine. But what you're saying is you don't want it to happen and you're not gonna allow it to happen. And I got a problem with that.
I don't
Well,
think
you're
that
the
that's
chair
what
of the
they're
Park and Rec.
saying.
Of course you're gonna have a problem with that. It's your job to have a problem with
But
that.
I think that
Well,
that's
I mean, that
not,
argument
that's
can be
not
used
what
for-
they're saying. They're saying that it is going to be used as an agricultural business.
I mean,
It's
that-
not gonna be used for
No, I- but
recreation.
Jim, that argument could be used for any
And-
parcel in town. You could say, well,
Yeah.
you can't put it aside for any use because it could be used for G and A.
Yeah.
Well, that,
No, because that's flat.
The
Okay,
same
let-
argument
let's
will
move,
go
let's
for-
move
Yeah.
beyond this.
That's,
Flat.
This happens whenever there's a historical restriction,
Mr. Chairman,
where
I
there's a
would
conservation
like to get an
restriction.
answer to what other things it could be used for, because the last thing we want to do is get a CR in there that has more loopholes in it you can shake a stick at.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
then we find out down the road that it's not even being used what we thought it was gonna be used for. So I would like to understand in
Okay.
detail what
well, we can look
actually.
up what agricultural uses are. We don't need to know that.
well. I just
No,
describe.
it's
I just describe the.
stipulated in
Exactly, that is a
conservation
legal thing. We
restriction.
do not need to find
Maybe,
that
maybe
right
what we should
tonight.
do, just to move the night forward.
Yes,
In the interest of moving the night forward, we have a lot of projects
Yep.
tonight to review. We
They
have
have a draft
received
restriction.
tonight
what I'm
the
saying is
paper
it's not,
copy.
it's not gonna
And
change, it's already
electronic, 2
written.
days ago.
Can I just
It's
describe
just
really
finding a
briefly how this
change.
works? So,
Go
I
ahead,
believe you've been provided with a copy of the draft restriction.
Yep,
Yeah,
When you flip through it, the two sections I would direct you to take a look at would be section Roman numeral 2, prohibited and permitted activities and uses. Under that, section A is basically the prohibitions, which is intended to be very encompassing. The intention is prohibit everything under the sun that we can think of today. And then section B, the so-called reserved rights, adds back in those specific things that are deemed to be consistent with the purposes of the restriction. In this case, there are 15 paragraphs, 22 paragraphs that enumerate all of the different activities that can continue to happen on the property.
so section B, is that negotiated on a CR by CR basis?
Yeah, yeah.
so would anything prohibit the addition of a use which would not mandate, but would leave open the option for this owner or any future owner to lease the field for soccer, lacrosse?
Well, I think a couple of things. I think it would be inconsistent with the goals of the land grant program.
Mhm.
I don't think they're going to fund a project that includes, unless they can be assured that the property stays in an agricultural or open space use, and they have there's obviously a separate grant program for active rec projects, the park program.
So you're talking about the grant that Steve's planning on applying
Yeah,
for?
right.
which
So
would
you
be
to
applying
retain
for this
eligibility for that.
2
yeah,
years in a row with the state agency. And-
1 year in between,
Yeah.
technically. And I guess I would just say it's not the intent of this project to encompass all the potential public uses that have benefit out there.
Or the
So-
Well,
landowner.
why would we
Or the
not
landowner
want
for
to
that
try to
purpose.
do that? Why wouldn't we want to try
Well,
to?
the landowner is setting the tone for this project.
Uh-huh.
Keep in mind, everything that we brought before you has been agreed by the landowner. So originally, I wanted to purchase the land.
That
Fee
would've been-
simple, would have been
Oh, right.
a lot more ideal, then we could have done more multi-use.
That
What you have before you is pretty much the deal we've been able to work out, the best we can do. The landowner's intention is to keep this a farm, an active farm, that's what he wants to see it stay.
The purchase wasn't an option.
Oh,
Right.
the purchase was off the tip.
End of
Understood.
story.
Understood.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that would be in front of you.
Perhaps what we need to do now is, we have copies, we've said electronic copies of the CR, the appraisal, et cetera, et cetera. What we might wanna do at this point is, and this vote will be telling, what we should do is, if this is going to move forward, we are taking a fee interest in a parcel of land if we recommend this to the town meeting. What we will need to do is to determine the value. As well done as this appraisal is, we will need to have an appraisal done independently. And essentially, an independent person will need to replicate that, which we do all the time. That's how we do it. We always have an appraisal. Oh, thank you, Jim. All signed?
I hope so.
Check them. With that being said, we seem to have a question from the audience.
I just was gonna ask, what is the benefit to the town by buying this property? It seems like we're gonna spend $250,000 and then put somebody else in there to run it. I'm not seeing what the return on the investment is to the town. What value, what's the benefit to the town of Georgetown to spend this money on this project? I'm just
Could
not
you
hearing
answer that, Steve, or Dave?
Well, to keep it open as an agricultural property. I mean, there is certainly some benefit to that.
And it's $200,000. The agreed price is $250, but Greenbelt's covering
Not
$50.
sure those
So the
benefits
town's portion is only $200,000.
are to the town.
So
Which
the
you
whole
might get-
benefit is just to keep that space open, that's all it is.
To keep the last remaining active farm in Georgetown, row crop, berry crop, in town, yes. In New England, farms are going away.
They were viable, and as a private entity, people would buy them up and they would use it. It
It
seems
is-
to me we're trying to subsidize a farm, that if it doesn't make sense economically.
The town's
then-
already subsidizing it. If you look at how much they're paying in taxes under 61, they're already subsidizing it, so.
Can I just ask two questions?
Sure, go ahead.
Is-
John,
is-
wait a minute, just for the record, just so we're open. That last question was, Mr. Figure, would you just state your name for the record?
John
please?
Pingree, 18 Pleasant Street.
Thank you. And Mr. Perry, would you say?
Mark Perry, 9 Tiger Row.
Thank you.
Will the farm be able to be, if the farm is sold, will it be sold for a value of 500,000? Say Mr. Morehouse wants to sell it in 10 years, or
No.
it can never be sold?
According to this,
Yeah, you can.
presumably,
As a farm.
the
As a farm.
value of the farm will be diminished to $80,000. Somewhere around there?
Of
89.
that piece of that portion of the property, exclusive of any of the houses, yeah.
Yeah, the houses aren't included in this.
Right.
They're their own separate lots.
So, all right, so
We're just talking about the farm
Once the
itself.
restriction's in place, it can be sold for whatever value the market places on it, but the restriction stays in place, so it has to be used for agricultural purposes.
if somebody buys that, do they have to give the town the $200,000 back?
No.
Where,
No,
Because the town still owns that,
Those rights.
That-
right, so
Right.
the
On that
200,000
property.
is for the restriction,
Right,
correct.
and the house is not included in that.
right.
Correct.
Is the property capable? Would Mr. Morehouse like to sell the whole piece of property to the town?
What we're hearing is no. Is
No.
that correct? I
Would,
can't
I mean, he
speak for
keeps the house. Would he like to sell the whole piece
No.
of property to the town?
There's no interest in doing that.
We've inquired,
sell
we've
it as
inquired
a-
about that, and the answer is no.
Well, I didn't know if he wanted if he wanted to sell it to the town as a multi-use piece of property. He
No, I
wants-
think it's fair to say his goal is to facilitate the ongoing use of the property as a farm, whether it's in his family or in some other ownership. And that's frankly, I think, why he's willing to take basically half of the value of the restriction as his compensation for the restriction. So he's making a significant
Shouldn't he pay you?
donation, basically.
Shouldn't he pay us to put a restriction on that land? Seems like it's backward to me. I don't know.
You know,
Crazy.
I grew up on a farm. I worked a farm where my brother ran. I think these kids in town, none of them have been on a farm. They never picked blueberries and they haven't picked strawberries. If that becomes a restriction, I would like to have every kid in first, second, third grade go to the farm and pick straw. I'm just saying, but by having this restriction, I just want to I want it to stay as usable farm. What you're suggesting though is it's not really a community farm. Someone could basically lock their doors
That,
and say, you know, this is my farm.
it
and-
would have been, that would have been our first choice.
I understand. So I wanted I wanted people on this, that was attempted. That's fine. That's good. So I just wanted to make sure that was how everything went through.
I think we need to look at section A and section B and just see how tight this thing is written. Are we gonna have another opportunity to talk to these gentlemen?
Absolutely, I mean,
yeah.
bear in
And-
mind, what we're gonna have to do is, we're going to have an appraisal done, at some point here. And, well, I'm gonna ask, the full board is here, I'm gonna ask one of you to make a motion to have an appraisal done.
Mr.
If that
Chairman?
appraisal does not carry, then this project's dead. And, because we cannot move forward without an appraisal, and essentially, it'll die right
And just
here
in
now.
terms of the process, I mean, this is a draft restriction, it's not set in stone.
Yeah.
Certainly, town council will want and will have ample opportunity to comment on it. In addition to that, all conservation restrictions have to be reviewed and approved by the state Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs as well. So there's multiple levels of review these things have to go through
And the state has already reviewed it
as a draft.
as a
Right.
draft and given a
yeah.
blessing.
Right, but their interest would probably be a little bit different than ours too. They're just looking for.
Of course. Yeah. It's just, it's been around a bit before it got to you.
Yeah.
Their interest is in making sure that it's enforceable,
It fits their-
sound,
yeah, yeah.
legally binding, all that stuff.
Well, we can always get back to that.
I'll make a motion to conduct an appraisal.
Motion by
I'll
Carl
second that.
to have an independent appraisal done for the CR. Motion is seconded by Dick Talbot. Is there any discussion on that, or
You
anybody?
can't flesh out any further details until you get to that
Yeah,
portion, so it's.
we needed to
Well,
read it.
Right.
We can
too.
certainly flesh out any details we wanna flesh
Right,
out, but I
you
mean,
can't flesh out the price issues that you wanna verify.
well, no, we don't know what numbers we're looking at here.
Well, that's
We
really why we need to
And we
do
have
that.
to find that
Right.
out, naturally. But I think that goes without saying, right? Okay. Everybody ready for the question?
Yep.
We getting an appraisal, yay or nay?
Yay.
Aye.
Aye.
Sounds unanimous.
Yeah.
Any opposition?
No.
Unanimous, okay, great. I'll, put out entries for that. And, great. Is there any other question that anyone would like to ask? I mean, definitely, we're gonna have to have Steve back at some point, probably, I don't know, March or something like that, before we look at all of this.
No, it's just that's a lot of document to read. I waded through one of them, and the other one was, so it'll take a while to absorb it.
Thank you for bringing it, and thank you for sending it early, and, that's
You know,
great. And-
One of the things I was concerned about is that it's truly used for agricultural, not in other words, someone just take a plow and throw some hayseed out there and get the tax deduction. The goal was to really have it as a functional farm property.
Right. That affirmative requirement is important.
Yeah, and that has real implications for the owner as well. I mean, it clearly limits the pool of potential buyers for the property, and eliminates everyone who would just look at it and think this would be a nice place for my horse farm, or just a nice place to have a big open field around my big house. So it takes it out of the realm of the sort of estate, equestrian buyer, and firmly into the realm of a real farm buyer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And next up is the Georgetown High School Lower Athletic Fields upgrade. And this is John Pingree and Mark Perry, who previously introduced themselves.
Just couldn't keep my mouth shut back there, apologize.
I know how it is. I understand.
Just got questions, Harry, what are you gonna do?
You have to have you have to know the answers. That's how life is.
500,000, Johnny and I will buy that place, and you can have all the vegetables you want.
I noticed when somebody said sell it outright, you were reaching for your checkbook. I noticed that. I didn't want to say anything. Yeah, it is a shame we couldn't buy it in fee simple. I think it would make it a heck of a lot easier.
Great
But
community,
anyway, moving on. Right now, we have a project suggestion. Folks, if you flip forward, you'll see a copy of the suggestion submitted. Information's right there. 2 pages, should be a front and a back for you guys. I have a slightly different sheet here. John, Mark, welcome. Please tell us about this project suggestion, and tell us who your friend is here.
This is the engineer from Gale Associates. His name is
Peter Spanos.
Peter Spanos. So basically what we're looking at, we've been working on this project for probably at least 5 years now, and Heather Hartford was working on it for probably 3 or 4 years before that. And originally the project was to be on the upper field, was what she was wanting to do, but that was probably 3 or 4 million. It involved handicap accessibility and all kinds of things. It was just way too much money for the town to pay. And
Just so the people in town know this, so this is a turf,
this is gonna be field turf.
so the suggestion is a field turf.
On the lower field, as you come into the high
So
school.
I just want
it'll
people
be
in
on the
town
right.
to know what we're talking
Okay,
about,
so
that's all.
I'm just giving you a basic history. We've gone off if you look at that map, he's got an overview of that map up there. It would be, can you point to it, Mark?
This area.
Yeah,
Just
that,
so
that
everybody can see it, okay. That is let's see, yeah, that's the field there, so you can't really see the upper fields that well, can you?
Yeah,
Up
well,
top
these are
up
the
there.
upper fields right here.
Yeah, okay. So, we were trying to do it up there originally, it was too much money with access, and it just wasn't gonna work. They wanted to do a track and all this other stuff, they wanted to put it on the tax base, and nobody had any appetite for that. So what we've come to is a multi-purpose field down on the lower level. He just put his
Right.
right there, okay? So it'll be a combination, baseball, football, soccer, lacrosse, you're able to line it for all the sports. And it'll just be on that lower level. And what we're looking, we've met with selectmen, we've been with the school committee, and now we're in front of CPC. And basically what we're trying to do, the law just got changed, as you guys all know, to allow CPC money to be used for renovation and overhaul of existing
Infrastructure,
facilities,
right.
infrastructure work on existing facilities.
Rehabilitation?
Of existing facilities, but it does not allow for the field turf itself to be purchased with that money, and that's where the GAA would come in as a private donation, where it's probably gonna be between 400 and 500,000 to put the field turf down. So we're really looking for, as an organization representing GAA, we're looking to make almost a $500,000 donation to the town of Georgetown, so that we can, not only as a schools, but also for our organization to have places where our kids can play without being on really lousy surfaces, unrested surfaces, taken over by the high school when their surfaces aren't working, so they push us off so that we don't even get chances to practice. So what we're trying to do is put a multi-purpose field down here so that we can use that facility after the school gets off of it, usually probably by 5:30 at night, and then we'd have access to the fields after that, and which also would allow us to rest all the other fields in town, so maybe we could get some grass back on the fields instead of running around in mud all the time. That lower field is particularly bad with drainage at this point, through neglect and whatever, just the way the water runs down off the hill. And we can't even use it really during the fall at all to practice. No one can use it. High school can't use it. They played maybe 2 or 3 varsity football games on there this year, and I think they played less than that last year. So depending on rain conditions and stuff, that field is almost useless in the fall. We do get to use it in the spring for baseball, although that field is a swamp. So our proposal would be to have the CPC do the infrastructure work, and GAA will pay for the field turf itself over there. And we're looking at, the project's probably gonna be a couple million. We don't have exact numbers yet, but it's probably gonna be a couple $1 million total, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, depending on if we have to phase it, or if we just go all the way out. You know, one of the things we could do is we could phase the project. If the numbers aren't looking right, we could put the lights in at a later time, we could put the stands in at a later time, which would bring the cost down. So, all those things are possibilities, but, you know.
Just
So
a couple.
what's the amount of the request?
We're looking probably at this point, we're gonna spend 500, we're thinking it's probably gonna be about $1 million toward here, 1 to 1.5 million would be the number that we're thinking it would be through the CPC.
For just the lower field.
Lower field.
The lower field.
Just a point, just so everybody understands how we got here. Very similar to Park and Rec. We spent about 4 years, we approached every property owner in the town of Georgetown with over 5, 8, 10 acres of land to try to purchase so we could get to field space, because we're out of field space. We run our soccer and lacrosse programs on the well fields. We know the well fields will eventually be gone. We can't fertilize. We're having a lot of issues there. American Legion, where we play baseball, we're also playing flag football. We're running youth soccer. We're also utilizing all of the high school fields every single day after 5 o'clock. They're unplayable as they stand. So after a few years of not being able to go anywhere, we started to invest and spend a lot of money and time in fixing the high school fields. But we're at a crossroads where we can't fix these fields to the point that they're playable. So what happens in the fall now is high school soccer, high school football is playing out of town, but soccer, to play the high school sports, are getting pushed onto West Street. So our youth programs are getting pushed off of there. So we kind of looked at all the different capabilities that where we're at, and the quickest and most economic potential use is this property here, because one is it's already is existing. All right, we don't have to go up top. We don't have to do, like John said, ADA compliance. And again, when we approach somebody in town for a purchase of land,
I guess just a quick question, why don't you have to do ADA compliance?
because it already is, it's already handicap
okay.
accessible.
All right, thanks.
But when we approach anybody in town, we signed a letter of intent for a piece of property in town, 30 acres of land at the end of Stone Row. But again, we have to access the neighborhood, and nobody wants, 400 people on a Saturday going through their neighborhood. So we're struggling. Where do we go? And we understand that. We live in town as well. So we come across this concept here, and if we're able to put field turf on here, and the usage that we'll get is on a weekly basis is 300 to 400 kids will use this surface, and that's every single day. So that would not only help our schools, which is all the GAA kids have come through there, would help our athletic programs, it would help our community, and it would take a huge load off of us. Now with the Pembroke School project coming along, the Pembroke School fields at this point are supposed to be okay and usable, but if they go to stage in those areas and we lose 2 or 3 baseball seasons or 2 or 3 soccer seasons, we have 500 kids a week that use Pembroke after 5 o'clock. What do we do with them? And we have no place for them to go. So that's how we got to, the high school field.
And another point I want to make is this is not a one-time commitment by GAA. We've committed to buying a second turf. So these field turf things usually last around 15 years. We've committed to buying a second replacement. We're going to put money aside every year to replace that turf in 15 years. So we're basically committing about $1 million private donation to the town.
Is it more economical?
Can I just clarify something, just
Yeah,
for
go
the
ahead.
record? I just wanted to state right up front. As you said, in the past years, CPA monies could not be used for any lands, for rehabilitating any lands that were previously purchased outside of the use of CPA money. With the recent change in the legislation, the legislature did 2 things. They allowed the use of monies to be, CPA monies to be spent for rehabilitation of lands that were not purchased with CPA monies.
Yeah.
That allows the use of this project, CPA monies, on these lands. The second thing they did was they prohibited CPA monies from purchasing and installing artificial turf surfaces. In light of that, and in light of the fact that we've been trying to find out about this project for years, the town administrator, on behalf of the CPA, and you can look in your, right after the project suggestion, inquired from KMP, from town council, And basically, they came back saying, yes, KMP takes the position that CPA funds can be used for site preparation work, but not for the purchase and installation of the synthetic turf. So the purchase and installation of the turf itself would have to be the private entity GAA. The site preparation and all the incidentals surrounding that can be town. Just so that we're right up front and clear on that, and everyone has that straight.
Is this a bondable kind of
This
project?
is certainly bondable. Any project utilizing CPA funds is bondable.
Yeah. okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
From the limited amount of information that I have, as a recreational project, we would be limited to a 15-year term on the bond because it's a recreational bond. We still have to go under chapter 39 or something. They have limitations as to how long you can bond for any given use.
Right, but we're not looking, I mean, even though the amount, the request would be for 1 or 1.5 million, we're not looking at a upfront funding of that amount of money.
Well, I'm not the project proponent. I don't know. What?
No,
What do you
I think
folks
he's asking you
proposing?
if you're gonna bond the project. I mean, it doesn't matter to us if you bond it or not. I mean,
No, but-
we just wanna get it going, so. if
We
that's
don't,
fine.
we don't have 1.5 million in a fund, I don't believe it.
Oh, no.
Right.
So I think the option open to us was probably some sort of bond at some length.
Right.
Determined by us.
Or a phase.
If.
So the yearly-
Or a phase.
The yearly hit, I guess, to our funds would not be $1 million or $1.5 million. It would be whatever the debt service is for that
exactly.
bond.
For a bond.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
looks like about 150K a year, if they're gonna do it for 10 years.
Or 100,
Or-
depending on what the number
Or
comes in,
15
1 or
years, yeah.
1.5. right.
Interest now is not that much, so.
Not right now.
Well, perhaps that's two separate questions. The question of whether we would bond, whether we would commit to a project and begin it and do it in phases.
Right.
That
That's
seems
the
like,
other,
that
yeah.
seems to be
Yeah,
an ancillary question.
structuring it is a
A
different
structural
issue.
problem as
Yeah.
far as how to
When I
fund
looked
it.
at it, it looked like it was a Cadillac project, and I was wondering, can you actually put a Ford together that'll go just as fast? I mean, the turf is what you need to get to.
Right. So what you would do is you would, the first thing you would do is you take the lights out, cause
Yep.
that's 600,000.
And maybe the stands and with
And
the
the
lift
stands
in it.
are another 175.
But you have to run all the infrastructure for the lights.
Yeah, everything's gonna have to be
Right.
there.
But the other side you have to realize is from GAA's standpoint, and from the need that we have in this town to not be able to light that surface. You know, 1 year is, you know, it's a manageable thing, but that surface will be lit 7 nights a week till 9 o'clock at night. We have that much need in this town for recreation. So if you think of a September afternoon, all right, school gets out at 2:30, football goes onto that field, soccer goes onto that field, they're practicing, field hockey might utilize it. 5:30, GAA soccer comes onto that field. You're gonna have 3 or 4 teams on there, you know, per hour, hour and a half till 9 o'clock. I mean, we have 450 kids playing soccer at West Street. Just think of what's happening down there. If you ever try to go down there, right? So that's what's going to happen there on a daily basis. And you think of Friday night, Georgetown plays football at home. Flag football will play before. Flag football will play at halftime. It'll be a community type place. You know, a lot of things will happen. Saturday morning, instead of the soccer clinic that gets moved every year because of what field is the muddiest, soccer clinic, your 3, 4, and 5-year-olds will go there. Saturday afternoon will be GAA soccer. It'll go like this all the way. In the spring, we have an issue with gym space here to get all of our sports programs up and going because of snow. If you go to, and Gail can speak to this, if you go to any community that has a field turf, they snow blow the turf off. The 1st of March, all their teams are outside. Our teams are in the gym till 10:30 at night. Our youth programs are delayed because our fields are muddy. We can't get on them. Our fields don't drain. So, you know, we'll start the 1st of March. In the afternoon, you'll have baseball out there, you'll have softball out there. Lacrosse will be on there. 5:30 at night, GA lacrosse will come on. GA baseball will come on. So it's going to be a continuing deal, and you really can't go too long without the lights. And also, Georgetown, historically, we have a problem as we're always going as a Ford. You know, if we don't do the project right, the town's not going to get the use out of this project. And if we don't light that field, you know, there's a couple hundred kids a week that are not going to use it. There's not a recreational space in this town that'll get more use than this.
But what happens after the new school goes in? I think there's new fields going with that too, right?
Yeah, there's not any AstroTurf or field turf type fields there, because that's not part of the budget.
No, but would that be an alternative, would be to build it into that?
Yeah, I think, right.
Yeah, we've had this discussion, with them. They don't necessarily have the space for a full-size high school baseball field there, in how it fits. There'll be an additional field there, but that's after the current school comes down.
Yeah.
So you're talking 5 years from now.
I don't think they particularly wanted to put it on their, cause we talked to.
On the bond.
They didn't wanna put it on the bond trying to
Right.
get that project through. either.
That was
They
our,
put it-
that was
yeah,
another approach.
You know.
We spent 6 or 8 months before this legislation trying to say, maybe we can help you sell that to the town, but you can understand the town voting on that school project, if we had put 1.5 million on there. And again, we don't want the town, as residents here, the two of us have lived here our whole life, we don't feel this should be on something that the townspeople are paying extra for. You know, it should go through the process that we're going through. And we're committed to raising money through fundraising, we're committed to getting sponsors, but the main push of this project, you know, you're looking somewhere in the $1.5 million range.
Mark, can I interrupt you? Just, and you mentioned process, it has been a long process, and, a lot has gone on that this board may or may not be aware of, a lot's gone on that I'm not even aware of. As far as, my understanding at this point is, you folks are here from GAA.
Yes.
GAA is a private entity. Naturally, if this were to get an affirmative vote at town meeting, GAA would not be receiving any funds at all through this appropriation. My understanding is that the select board has created an independent, standing committee for this project, much in the same way that they appointed the, what's referred to as the Recreational Path Committee. So that the town has an entity in and of itself, a department, an arm of the town, if you will, that can function as the,
Oversee or oversight.
Yeah, the oversight board, the manager.
financial oversight.
The financial manager and oversight of it. Do you have any information about that? Because my understanding is, I was told that
They're in the process
people have
of
been
appointing
appointed.
those people now, I believe it.
Okay.
It's Mark and I believe Jim Demento, Peter Durkee, Carol Jacobs is a non-voting, member of that committee. Is it Barbie Linares, is that?
Yeah, from the
Is it
school
Barbie
committee.
Linares from the school committee?
I don't know if I wasn't, I know there was 3 appointed, I know there's people put in their letters to be.
Yeah, I don't know that, I'm
There was
just
a
giving you the
selectmen's
names I
meetings
know, I
last
don't know
night
that
that I
they're all
didn't attend,
appointed.
Yeah.
so.
Can I ask you something? What's the name of the committee? Because I haven't been watching the selectmen meetings, my apologies.
Oh,
I
they
can't
came up,
watch
they
everything.
came up with the name, David Surface, and I can't remember,
I don't recall
I
it
don't
at all,
either.
to tell you the
Yeah.
truth. At
We were,
all.
I was at two
That
schools,
was-
2 meetings ago.
That
when
was,
they-
that was 3 weeks ago.
they
so I
argued
have no
about what
idea.
they were gonna name it, and they came up with a solution after, but they went through about 15 names. So I hesitate to tell you, because it will probably be wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't.
But
know.
my understanding is that that board, that committee board, will have GAA members on it.
Correct.
Are you folks gonna be on
Nick
this?
and I are gonna be
Yeah,
on it,
we'll,
yes.
we'll be the 2
You're-
GA members.
You're
on
gonna
it.
be the,
Yes.
okay, great. So, from this point forward, it sounds like this project morphs over to them.
Yeah, there's a member.
That board will be the presenter and the contact for this board the next time
Right.
this comes in.
There'll be school committee members of they requested a financial, the finance department, there'll be someone from the finance department on it, so they wanted to have enough people from different departments looking at this.
Also, Harry, you know, with anything in this town, we're also on a clock, you know, to get to a certain place, in a certain time. You know, as other projects come up or other things come up, so.
Do you have a conceptual, did you bring a
Yes.
conceptual?
Yes.
Is it, can we
Yeah, you
take, can we
he's-
take a quick look
He's
at
here
it?
to answer, go ahead, he's here to answer all kinds of questions.
I mean, that's not the conceptual, it's
No,
behind it.
this is.
Because the people in town can probably see it if the cameras do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, definitely. I was gonna touch base on the existing
Sure, so you-
conditions, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the field here. We have the, toward the back here is the Penn Brook, I believe.
Yes.
That runs toward the back. And then this is the wooded area, and there is about a 35-foot grade change, so this is much higher. This is fairly flat, obviously, because it's a field, and it drains toward Pembroke. Pembroke is about 7 feet.
Yeah, maybe we can get the
Yeah,
the
is there an
cameras to see
orientation
that.
for your picture that would be better for the?
Yeah, maybe.
For the,
I think from the previous board, there was,
Yeah. You might be.
Yeah, he's
if
able to-
You might be able to crank it around just a little bit. Maybe you could rotate that counterclockwise 20 degrees or so. And it might help.
There you go.
The other-
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. If you square it up to this camera here, you'll.
what's the IT guy moving it to? So.
Yeah, this is the camera you're aiming for, so if you could put it oblique to that.
Just put it more of a,
At a 90, so to
there we
speak.
go.
There we go.
There you go.
Great.
There we
Yep,
go.
yep.
yeah,
Yeah,
good.
that's good. And he
Good?
can,
All right.
Beautiful.
So, as I was saying, so this is, at a higher elevation, about 30, 35 feet below or above. It drains toward north. This is flipped. North is not true up. North is in this direction. So this drains towards the west, towards Pembroke. Once you get to the edge of the brook here, it's about a 7-foot drop off. So the conditions of the field, as was stated earlier, are not so good, in poor condition. The turf has been heavily compacted, lack of maintenance, overuse. Over time, it gets compacted. You need to aerate it. You need to dress it. Things like that have not been done. There's some shallow depressions in there that also help contain water a little bit more, and have an issue with drainage. The field is, like I said, not maintained. I don't think there's a firm inclemental weather policy on this field, so there's nobody there to guard against somebody getting on the field when it's still wet and having like a football game or something of that nature when the field is too wet and you
We
play.
really don't have any choices on those.
Yeah.
They have to play, that's our only field,
Yeah.
so that's why they gotta play those games.
Not a problem. Not a problem. So you have those issues. You have the field, I believe, does have an irrigation system when it's used, and it uses town water. There were some preliminary test pits done in the field, up to about 10 feet deep. Water started weeping in, I believe, at around 7 feet, which is consistent with the depth of the Pembroke there, so it makes sense. High water was estimated a couple feet above that, so around the 5 foot, 5.5 foot range would be where the high water would be on this site.
Will we be raising that elevation?
No, no. So that's this. I'll just jump into the
yeah,
color rendering of the conceptual design.
perfect.
Oh,
So this is the conceptual design that we have. Again, this is a multi-purpose field, allowed to play baseball and football at the same time. Just to jump back real briefly on the existing conditions, one of the reasons why this field doesn't have a chance to get rest is because of the intense use, and because once you're done with the fall sports, you're jumping onto the spring sports, and you can't rest the field. Breaks down the root zone, it deteriorates much faster. Can't maintain it.
Peter, can
So-
I ask you very quickly, I don't mean to interrupt you,
Sure.
but is that footprint identical?
Well, no, it's blown. No, it's blown up. It's right here.
No, I understand there's a proportional difference. I'm wondering if the footprint that
Yeah, that's
is currently used is the footprint that's being represented there.
Yes, there is some going into the wood lines here with a retaining wall just to make it
A slight
angle a little more.
expansion, not
Yeah.
towards the river.
No, not toward the brook.
Uh-huh.
Toward the back here, toward the slope.
Okay.
We're cutting into the slope a little bit to make it work, and just
Great,
putting a
great.
retaining wall there.
So,
So you put turf on all the area that's green right
What
now.
you see here in the dark green.
Even the baseball field would be
Yeah, the
turf.
baseball
Yes, the
field
whole
is-
thing.
is
Yeah, the
turf.
brown is all turf too. There's gonna be no clay on this field. It's
Oh,
gonna
okay.
be completely turf. We're gonna have we're gonna bring a mound in. When somebody pitches, they have temporary mounds. You can bring them in. They're big and they're heavy, but you just
Okay,
you just roll it right
Yeah,
in there
the-
and,
for
and
a
you take
mounded
it
area,
off right there.
correct.
Yeah, but the rest of that's
So when
all
the
field
mound is
turf.
not in use, you can use this as a practice or
Right.
anything else you need to do.
I
So
only asked about the Pembroke for permitting issues. I know that sometimes there are issues when there's an expansion of an existing use. If you're already using that area, it shouldn't be
Yeah, it's already disturbed.
It's,
Right.
yeah, that's the technical term, yes.
Right.
Disturbed soils already.
So, and also under this concept, we have, as it's striped now, for full football, soccer, men's lacrosse, and field hockey. This area toward the back, I can show you another concept plan, but it won't be in color, but this is for a phasing of to put permanent bleachers, if you chose to do this. And right here for purposes of showing how it can be lit, it'll be a 6-pole system, 2 behind, 2 on the side here, and 2 toward the back.
Does the Pembroke flood into the field during these 100-year
No, I do not,
floods?
this right here
No,
are
it's
the
7 feet
wetlands
below.
and the
Okay.
buffer lines. I do not believe it floods.
It doesn't. It's
Okay.
in my lifetime, it's never been up on that field. It's
Okay.
never
And-
gone. If
Nor
you went
mine.
all the way
It's
down
deep
there
bank.
to the end of
Okay.
to the end of the parking lot, there's a little culvert that it goes over.
Yeah.
The water's never gone over that
Okay.
culvert. I go on all the big storms.
Not even in the
remember that?
100-year
It
floods
never
here
goes
that
over.
Well,
It's
the
gone
reason
all
I'm
the-
saying this is because this field as it is today, and we're not changing the elevation, is about 7 feet higher than the
Okay.
brook here.
Yeah.
The brook,
That happens.
the contour lines, let's say this is 78, the contour lines go to 76, 74, 73, so it goes downhill. So if this was ever to stage, it would flood the downstream.
It would flood the parking lot, but I don't think it's ever done that either.
Yeah.
there. No.
Well, I know downstream there was some flooding at one of those storms we had.
Well, these May storms that we've had.
Yeah, but I don't think that shopping center.
Didn't go up on the
flood.
high school parking lot, though.
Okay.
That's my point.
Okay.
I don't know, down there,
Right.
further
Right.
down, if you went all
Right,
the way
this
down
is,
across North Street.
like I said,
you
this
know,
is about 7
further
feet
down.
higher currently today than the brook itself. So there hasn't been any historical evidence that.
No.
Okay. So the field here, as I said, we will keep in line with the parking. The way these fields look, and I have boards if you want to see how they're constructed. They're basically a concrete curb, if you will, along the perimeter. It has a little shelf on it. In between here, this whole site is stripped of the loam. It's screened. It's disposed of or sold or whatever you choose to do. Then we excavate about to the subgrade and we build it back up. Usually these fields are about 10 to 12 inches of an engineered free draining stone subbase. There's a lot of void space in there, between 35 to 40% void space. It's clean. It's not a lot of fines in it. That help. Go
Can I
ahead.
ask, is the, what we're calling the rug or the turf, I don't know the right term for it, the
Yes,
the
Field
rug?
turf.
Field turf, yeah.
Is the field turf material itself, is that permeable? Does water go
Yes.
through it? Oh,
Yes,
okay.
it's highly
So it's not
permeable.
like it's just a big.
No,
mat
it's highly
rubber that
permeable.
everything's gonna
The,
run
the
off.
way the drainage systems work here is, well, let me show you a quick little.
It's like a carpet.
Yeah, and the water goes right through it evidently.
Let me show you a quick little diagram. So, like I said, this is what gets excavated out about a foot. That is the free draining stone. At the base of the free draining stone, once we excavate it out, we will put some geotextile fabric, a filter fabric, if you will, and that helps prevent the fines from the sub-base material from propagating upward into the free draining stone base. So you put the stone base, right before you do that, you put drainage panels. They're flat panel drains about an inch high, about a foot wide. And they're put, if it's crowned in the middle, if you will, they're put in a herringbone pattern. So as rainwater infiltrates through it, whatever doesn't infiltrate, and I'll get back to that, whatever doesn't infiltrate, or if there's back-to-back storms and things of that nature, will get picked up by the finger drains. Go to the perimeter where will be a perforated pipe and stone, so a French drain, if you will,
French drain.
along the perimeter, and connect to some outlet point and discharge toward the lower gradient. In this case, at some point toward downstream, toward the Pembroke. So that's the way these systems work. Along the perimeter of them is a concrete curb, and that's where the carpet is laid down and adhered to. Within this carpet is a typically it's about a 2 to 2.5 inches of pile height, the carpet, the fibers of the synthetic grass, and roughly about 2 inches of that is an infilled mixture of sand and rubber. So
as interesting and as informative as the details of the rug
yeah,
are,
yeah.
this board can't recommend the payment of that.
No.
So,
I was just trying to
why don't
explain how it
we-
works.
and don't get me wrong, I appreciate it, and I really do appreciate it.
I think it's good for the town people to get a quick overview, but like you said, we get other,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Sure.
But the important thing right now for this board is everything but that.
Okay.
I think that's what we have to focus on. And I'm not trying to be rude when I shut you off.
So everything but the carpet.
Well, the carpet is not
Right.
something
That's
that
their
the town
problem.
can
That's their
do.
gift.
So
That's
so
something GA is gonna be doing.
So like I said, the site would be cleared, it would be graded, we would cut into the slope here a little bit, put a retaining wall, like a segmental retaining wall, split stone face type of wall that you see around sites everywhere.
How high? How high? I'm planning board,
Oh.
sorry.
How high? Looking at the grades between 2 and maybe 6 to 8 feet at the most,
More than 4 feet.
more than 4 feet.
Understood. Engineered wall, go ahead.
Right. So with those type of walls, as you know, you'd put some type of geotextile fabric, tiebacks, when you build this wall. So along with that would be a path to the back here to the dugouts and some small spectator seating areas. Like I said, toward the back here would be a more formal grandstand. If that should go forward. And then here are the lights. Infrastructure-wise, you would have to excavate it, bring in the stone, grade it, laser grade it, bring in the utilities, whether it's electric. You may need areas for water as well, for potable water, or if you ever chose to wet the fields for some reason, you could choose to do that. The poles themselves would be around 70 feet high. Typically, that's what the system calls for. And if you can imagine, there's a significant base that needs to get installed. So if you want to talk about phasing.
Yeah, well, I mean, we prefer not to phase it, as we spoke earlier, but, you know, if we have to, you know,
Yeah, those-
the idea is
those-
to get that.
One
done.
would have to be put in.
One of the benefits to phasing it would be your opportune time to at least install the bases.
Yeah.
So you don't.
How close are those to the river, the brook?
How close are the poles to the brook?
Correct.
I would imagine. Good question. The nearest poles, I would imagine to be maybe gauging it out there, 50 to 70 feet.
But they would be placed on previously disturbed land that's
Correct.
already-
Right now, it is a maintained field. It's.
Okay, and not that I'm trying to cut you off at all. I find this fascinating. I love to learn as much as I can about it. And at this point, I think what we really need to look at is something that we just don't have, which is, I think, well, hopefully I can speak for the committee. We need some information right now. We need good, solid breakdowns, detailed breakdowns on all of the different aspects of this, with the exception of the rug, because we can't deal with the rug.
Yep.
Numbers. The full-blown
Yeah.
whole enchilada.
Yep.
And opposite that, a phased approach that would phase this over a 3-year period.
I can show you how the phasing would work, I mean, just on that sheet if you want, because it's just, the only
If
way
you
you
could
can phase it
submit
is lights
that
and,
and
lights and
send that
stands.
to us.
Is there any
We don't
chance you
have
got that
this.
in electronic copy? I have a
Yeah,
copy.
yeah, well,
You have a copy?
I have, but not electronically, something that you can plug.
Like a
into
PDF, you mean?
No, a PDF is, no, I mean, that's an Excel spreadsheet.
Yes.
it would be
I mean-
really, really helpful if you could send us that.
We can play with the numbers, we can move
And-
things into different categories.
Yeah, if you could break it down into, for us, if you could.
Yeah.
into the phased approach,
Yep.
where you would have your first year, your second year, your third year.
And the added costs of phasing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I mean,
And
Put that together.
as well as naturally, the whole enchilada, if you will, and the
We
breakdown.
can, we can provide that. Oh, we, like I
Yeah,
said,
we
we
pretty
provided.
much have it here. And
We
I can-
provided
I can give you the amount
Yeah, I
if you
mean,
want.
Detailed cost estimate as well as we can do with this conceptual layout. We've included soft costs, design, permitting, testing, geotech information. We've included a contingency cost. We've included a bond cost. We've included mobilization cost.
Done due diligence, I can tell.
It's- it's all
You're
there.
pros.
So we
But
we
the
can
problem is
provide that.
don't have that.
We can break that out.
So you
We
have
don't
it,
have
you have it set up so you can actually look at the base, because until you get the turf down, you have nothing. But that, once you have that down, at least you have an operable field anyway.
Yeah, and that's, I
Right.
mean, we want to get at
Yeah.
least the turf down, and then if we have to phase it, then we have to phase it.
Right, I
only-
mean,
the
but
only-
that's a
yeah.
base level, you can't do anything less than that, it's meaningless.
Right.
The only two phasing points would be
Lights and stands.
completion of the lights and the stands. Everything else is,
Right, so by these numbers, that's 470,000 that he's got listed on here for the lights. And then the stands.
So, I mean, I can
suppose
take
it's
the
something you could do
spreadsheet
with-
and put-
I suppose
but,
it's-
but some of that 470 would have to be in the, I mean,
Right.
not all of
That's
that.
what we
would
don't
come
know.
out
We
of
don't
the
know what it-
phasing.
what it's
Correct.
gonna
You're talking
cost
about
to
the
run.
bases, you mean, what the
Right.
bases
Yeah,
cost?
yeah.
Excellent,
That's not broken
excellent.
down.
So it sounds to me like, what we really need is for you guys to get together and, send us that information, the full package, one-shot deal, full costs, and a phased approach. Because I think this board will really need to look at that, and that's gonna be part of.
Sure, we
how
can
we
provide that
decide. And if that could be provided, that would be really, really helpful. And you can email that to the board, and I'll distribute it to the board.
Not a problem.
You can
Right.
email it right to me, John, Mark,
Yeah.
whomever.
Yeah, I have your email.
Peter, you
Um,
can really
so
feel
that-
free to
yeah,
give
that's-
Peter.
No, I'll.
Yeah,
I'll-
that-
Please feel free. And
Right, all you
then
need.
we'll have some real numbers, and we'll know what to work with, and
Easy enough.
we'll know what we're working, where we're going.
If you have an email address too, so if we have questions, we could maybe address them directly, would that be fair? Well, like,
I
things
think.
come to mind, like we looked at, on East Street Fields, like you can put conduit in. Well, let me finish.
Oh, East Main Street
Right,
Fields.
if you can sometimes just put the conduit in without the wiring for the lights, so there's a lot you can do that's required before you put the field down, but it doesn't put any of the infrastructure in except for the conduit for
Right.
the lights.
Right.
Right, conduit, pull string, and handles.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
you can
yep.
do that.
Yeah,
You're all there.
that's basically, yeah, that's why you, that's how you phase, right?
Okay.
Phase one would be
Right.
the baseline, right? I think you know what we need, I think you understand what we need. But because I think part of this is gonna be, determining whether it would be financial, number one, if it's a need for the community, if it's something we wanna move forward with, something we feel comfortable recommending. And the second, again, as we said before, would this be something that we would bond all at once, one-time shot, deal with for the next 15 years, or perhaps look at a, much like we did with the recreational path, a series of phased appropriations, and much like we've done with the East Main Street project, a series of phased appropriations. This may be something that would lend itself to that, just so that we wouldn't have to go through the additional expense of bonding. Because that can be quite expensive, and it's something that we've, it's a learning curve for everybody, for CPA bond.
Where are you located out of? You personally?
Weymouth.
Weymouth, okay. I was saying, when the committee actually gets formed, we might be worth scheduling a site walk for not only the committee, but concerned people in town to walk through it if they'd like.
Yep,
That's all.
no problem.
Okay. Thank the other chairman, I'm not gonna say it.
Oh, no, you can thank everybody.
I just know we
I'm
got other
glad.
people waiting, so.
Absolutely, I know it's your project, give me 1 minute, we'll be there.
Are we gonna be back on the agenda the next meeting? How does it go from here? What's
No,
our next?
well,
We'll get
why
you
don't-
these
why don't
numbers
you
and then what
Get us these
happens?
numbers, why don't we bring them forward, I'll present them, I'll send them out to everybody. Paul, I'm sure will have questions, we can channel them all out, and we can ask all the questions we want, find out a few things that way. Any additional information we need,
Sure.
you can provide it for us.
Yeah, we can get it.
Pete, if you could communicate with us, that's probably the best way, CC and Mark and John, and that sounds like it'll work to transition into whatever the unnamed committee is at this point, the mystery committee.
Sure.
and that way we can transition into that.
Oh, I just had a quick question. Have you looked at recurring costs once this final project is done? Like
Yeah.
how much who's gonna pay for the lights and how much that's gonna be per year?
We've had meetings with the school committee on that.
Okay.
And, basically, I don't know who pays for their lights, but the school would take care of the lighting.
Okay.
They're getting off pretty
did some-
scot-free.
Okay.
They would be
Yeah.
taking care of maintenance, you know, if a scene comes up, they would be taking care of the
Okay.
cleaning of the field, so they would basically be in charge. I mean, we're still ironing out a few details on, you know, if they wanted in the summertime to do like clinics and rent the space out, you know, where would that money go, if it would be maintenance, whether it would go to replacement costs.
Or dues or
So-
memberships?
Yeah,
and
so
that
stuff
type
like
of
that,
stuff.
we're still, a couple of those, we had a lengthy meeting a couple weeks back on that, or maybe it was last week, and have addressed a lot of those things and have them written all down, and we're just dotting the Ts and crossing
Yeah,
the
we'd
Is.
establish an account with the school and GAA, put as an escrow, we'd put a certain amount of money in to start the account.
Okay.
And then GAA on a yearly basis would have a guaranteed amount they'd need to put into that, so that when we got to the 15 years, we'd have an automatic situation. where
We had that
replace it.
discussion about a week ago, and of course, because I'm so busy at work, I decided to go online and look into it, what the lights, what the cost of lights on a
Now public
stadium
knowledge.
would be, and it's between $1,000 and $2,000 a year, so it isn't 10 and it isn't 20.
Right.
So it is a cost, but it
Minimal.
isn't what people would think with all this lights being lit. 'Cause
I
I
think-
thought,
I think-
I was not sure either what we're looking at.
If I could touch base on these lights just briefly, these lights are, that were in our recent projects, they're, with the lights comes a 25-year maintenance plan. So they will come, maintenance warranty, they'll come in after year 15 as well, relamp everything. So it is extended. And that's not to say that the lights will will stop at 25 years. That's just say their maintenance-free program will end at 25 years.
I think it's,
So-
but what people have to realize here is this is really $1 million private donation that's gonna come to Georgetown. And
From the GAA
From the
to the
GAA,
town.
which is a private organization
Yeah.
coming to Georgetown. And I don't think those happen very often in this town that I can remember. So, I mean, I think it's a good community builder. I think that it would really help in the town as far as getting people together, maybe getting better crowds down at the football games and lacrosse games, because we can get our younger kids involved and maybe connect the programs a little bit better than we're doing now. So, I really think it's a good project for the overall community, and hope you guys will support it.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
These guys have been tails.
Sure.
This.
Well, I know they were here 2 or 3 years ago.
And they
Great.
raised money.
Okay,
It's
quick potty break
amazing.
here.
For a long time.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir?
you talking about running to the potty?
Do what you have to do.
That sounds like a good thing.
Hi, everyone. And we're taking up the next project suggestion on the agenda tonight, and that is the pavilion at American Legion Park. And if you'd all state your names, that would be very, very helpful. I see Rich Aberman there.
Aberman, Treasurer of the Park and Rec Commission.
I'm Juliet Rec, Park and Rec. Sue Caulfield?
All Park and Rec members. right?
Yes, correct. And sorry, but we don't have any fancy billboards tonight.
You didn't bring one?
Maybe next meeting. We'll see how you like the idea.
Why don't you tell us about your project, Juliet? If you folks flip forward past KMP's opinion about
It's the third or last page.
their fields, you'll see project suggestion, and this one's for the pavilion at American Legion Park. Tell us about it.
Basically, we'd like to get a pavilion down there at the end of the sand line, where the sand from the beach ends, before the sand for the volleyball courts. That's a nice area down there where a lot of people have been barbecuing and stuff this past summer, and it seems like a. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, can I just, can you just let everybody know where American Legion Beach is? A lot of people in town, well, just know where it is, or what's there. So how to
Sure.
get there? Just 2 seconds so people know which park we're talking.
We're talking about American Legion Park in Georgetown, off Pentucket Pond, and it's off of a private way, which is
Pentucket Ave.
Pentucket Avenue, and what's the other street?
Pond Street.
Pond Street. And it already has bathroom facilities there. We have a band shell where we have live concert series. We have kind of two playgrounds, a lower and an upper playground. We have a baseball field. We have batting cages. We have tennis courts, sand volleyball. We have a beach with a nice dock, a lot of sand poured down there. So just about anything you could want down there besides a shaded pavilion. So we would like to suggest monies be appropriated for a pavilion that would hold, we would like it to hold 6 picnic tables to really make it worth our while to have the town spend money on it, because we're just seeing more use out of the park. Park and Rec has been working hard the past couple years, redoing some of the playground equipment that needed to be replaced. It's about 25 years old. We have a lot of rod and splinters and so forth. So we've been doing upgrades at the playground. We've been doing upgrades at the beach. We've purchased a new dock, new playground equipment. So we're seeing a lot of additional use to the park, which is great. And we're looking forward to hopefully getting a lifeguard in the coming summers, since a lot of extra use at the beach. And we would like to do arts and crafts and stuff in the summer for kids. So we just thought shaded seating, especially for elderly and stuff as well, or if there's bad weather, would be nice. We'd like to see more people having picnics and stuff down there. GAA could do award ceremonies, whatever. I mean, the local schools, preschools, daycares, a lot of people I think would really be able to utilize a pavilion down there. That we would have it ADA accessible. We'd want probably a small, I don't know what all the restrictions are, some ramps up to it. We would like to have some type of flooring on it, whether it's going to be poured concrete or whether it's going to be patio type stones or something, so we don't get any pooling or anything under there. And of course ADA accessible with the picnic tables, so everyone can use it.
What's the approximate dimension?
Ballpark, what we think we'd like to be able to hold 6 picnic tables is, I would like to see a 20 by 20. We can work with those numbers. I would just like it to be able to fit 6 picnic tables. Picnic tables can be 6 feet, they can be 8 feet, we can make them 5 feet. We can have the picnic tables built to whatever specifications we want. I would like to at least see 6-foot picnic tables. But these are all things that we can definitely work with based on how much money we have allotted for the project. But I don't want the pavilion just big enough to hold 6 tables. We want some overhang, so, because we're really building this for bad weather as well.
Yeah.
So if it is raining and stuff down there, a lot of people are at the beach,
Can have
you
a
know,
window.
we want it to really protect from rain
It
as
sounds a
well.
little bit bigger than 20 by 20 to house that many tables.
You should be able to fit, we're talking about 2 rows of 3, so a rectangular, well, it won't be if it's 20 by 20, but we should be able to fit.
We'll discuss
Yeah,
the
we
size.
should be able to fit.
So perhaps, yeah, okay. So it sounds like the size is.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I was just ballparking in my head.
Sounds like.
I didn't get a lot of official quotes yet. We did get a couple quotes if we want to talk a little bit about a ballpark of money that we're talking about. I would like to keep the project at 25,000 or less.
What are you basing that on?
There's,
Do
well,
you have any?
I have an estimate just from Georgetown Ironworks on Jackman Street, if you're familiar with it. They gave us a quote of 23,500. And again, this isn't with any specific dimensions or anything. We had just told them we would like a pavilion to hold 6 picnic tables for down at the park. And it says, we propose to design, fabricate, and install 1 hot dip galvanized canopy structure with color-coded seamless roofing on top of 4 concrete footings for the sum of $23,500. Price
So
includes
that's-
plans and engineering for building permit.
A metal roof, I mean, just metal structure.
Now, that's one of many ways to go on a pavilion. Just looking online nowadays, you can buy everything online. They ship it all out there, and they even bring the people out there to assemble it. For instance, I talked to Gazebo Creations today and got some different prices on one. This that was coming up at just $12,000, and this is for actually $12,000 for a 20 by 20 treated pine Ramada pavilion. And then
The
$1,000.
wooden structure?
Yes.
Yes, and then 1,200 for stamped engineering drawings, and then assembly $800.
So would the tables be part of that, and would they be anchored?
No, tables Park and Rec would take care of. We have local people that, and we can do that with fundraising or with Park and Rec's money for picnic tables. We want to put barbecue grills on each side. Of course, this would be within the buffer zones and everything down at the park, which is all stuff we can deal with once we get into the fine print of
Outside the
things.
buffer zones.
Yeah.
Outside.
But these,
buffer
everything would
zones.
be anchored, so it can't wander?
Would you propose utilities in it as far as lighting or at
No.
least outlets or whatever?
No, that's something, I think at a later date. I just want this
Right.
pretty basic.
We
I-
can,
We don't want to get too
in the
crazy with
future, we
it.
could probably
Mhm.
budget that separate as, instead of budgeting it into this. The one problem with the park right now, just so you know, is if Juliet and Suzanne
I'll
wanted.
pass these around so people can kind of look at what a little bit of our
During the
vision
day
is.
when people
if
are
you-
down there, if there's bad weather, people basically have to run to their cars.
Right.
If you're having a face painting or you have any special events down there, there's bad weather, there's no place to pull in for 5 minutes, let the storm
Yeah.
pass, and then, so how can you have events where you're asking kids to come down there, do this and do that, and say, well, and if it rains, we're gonna stick them in the bathroom for a half hour while the parents come pick them up, so.
And this is just a
we
little bit
really-
of a
We really
design
need to have
too
some
for-
sort of structure
Right.
in order
you
to
have a
have these type
picture.
of events going forward.
This is pretty common.
So this is
Yeah.
outside
Now,
of the
the
trees.
second drawing that I'm passing around is a little bit cheaper, but with that, you need some light, heavy equipment to raise roof and stuff, where with this, you don't. So, which, once we see if this gets approved, what type of monies we're working with, there's a lot of different options we can go. But we just don't want to go too small, because we really want, if we're going to have arts and crafts program stuff for kids run in the summer, we really want to be able to house a decent amount of people. I'm sure people can sign up to use this for family reunions, for birthday parties. I mean, we expect to see a lot of use down at the park for everyone in the
After baseball
community
game,
to be able to
cookouts,
use this.
potentially,
Yeah.
And always have it open to Georgetown residents only first, and then from there. But, the list is endless, really, and of
That
course it
brings
would
up-
be,
That brings up an interesting point.
What's that, Carl?
Georgetown residents only. CPC monies are mingled with state monies. Usually when state monies are mingled, you can't make things town exclusive.
well, it's and
You
guests,
can't
Georgetown
legally-
residents and
you can't-
guests.
You can't prohibit anybody.
Well, that was my point.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, anybody that thinks that they can
Because,
legally do that is.
towns, I mean, if a town isn't using it, if it buys it with its own money, it can do stuff like that. But if you have, well,
State money.
if you have state money, you cannot.
Yeah, all of our facilities are open to everyone in the state of Massachusetts.
Well, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, I'm
I don't
sure
know if the park is, that is something we might have to consider. Because I don't think the park is for town residents only.
Because that's my point.
And guests.
That's-
Yeah,
It's
even
and
if, even if in the past, there may have been a town meeting vote that made it that way,
Mm-hmm.
or a bylaw that said it should be that way,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that law will be upheld by the Attorney General.
And we do not enforce it at
Yeah.
American Legion
No,
Park. We
it's
don't
not.
require a
not,
sticker or
yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
But it has been enforced over the years, and I'm
Yeah.
just questioning whether it could be enforced. That's a good point then, because I know other towns have a similar thing. In North Andover, they have their own.
Actually, many communities around here have beach things that,
Mhm.
gee, you ought to know, Jim.
Mhm.
Beach things or boating facilities that are town only.
Moving right along now, you said there was, one was a wooden structure, and one was, one of the estimates was a wooden structure, one was a metal
galvanized.
structure.
Yes, so there's different ways to go.
And the
Obviously,
highest estimate so far that you have was the 23.5?
23.5, yes, and that's not including flooring.
Not inclusive. of-
That estimate is not including flooring. So I was thinking if we could go with something cheaper, like the one that was 12,000 plus the 800 for assembly, then that would give us some room to work with. I mean, whether we go concrete, whether we go the patio stones, I mean, this could be anywhere from $2,000 to $7,000 to pour a
There may also
floor.
be other costs with
I'm
the
not-
permitting.
I'm not really, volunteering to say, well, let's spend more, but you said you wanted to keep it at 25, but why?
I don't have to by any means. I mean, I just kind of needed a starting point to work with, and I
okay.
didn't want to
No, I
put too much into this if it wasn't necessarily going to go forward. I was thinking, like that estimate right there offline from the Gazebo Creations, I believe, that was 12,000 plus 800 for assembly. That would give us some good room to work with. Now, that's just one quote, where the local Georgetown company was giving us 23.5, and that wasn't including flooring, which it would go over at that point. So, I don't know. I mean, as a board, do you feel comfortable asking for the project to be at a higher price, or do we really want to work at keeping it at 25,000 or below?
Could you make it work at 25K?
I believe we can make
Yes,
it
we
work,
can.
yes. And if it's a matter of not getting the flooring completely done, that's something that could be
We can
maybe
work, yeah.
utilized with the Park
We
and
can phase
Rec's
that.
operating budget or with fundraising.
Absolutely.
Once the
Yeah.
gazebo is up, or pavilion, whatever you may call it, see a lot of use, at that point, we could always then, if we didn't have enough for the flooring, we could put in at that time, and then add the barbecue grills, add the picnic. This could be done in phases as well. But I think we're comfortable with $25,000 for this specific project.
So where specifically did you want to put it down there? I mean,
I wish I had a map of it too. At the end of the beach, at the back side, the tree line,
Where the,
where the tree line is, right there before the volleyball sand area. So you've got sand here and the grass area there. So right there, I think it would fit real nice.
Before the
So-
trees? So it's,
And trees.
well, eventually you walk back further, you,
Yeah. So you
On the
basically,
on the
so
existing
basically
sand.
one side's gonna be open, one side's gonna be sand, the beach, trees, and that little
Okay.
stream, and sand, the volleyball nets, and then the baseball field and stuff this way. And then the rolling hill down to it. And
to the beach.
I think that would be a good area. Now, of course, that's something too we could always talk
Isn't that where
about.
water pools right now?
It doesn't pool too bad. I mean, of course, when there's lots of
Yeah.
heavy rain, but
Yeah.
it doesn't
I
like
think
get,
it'd
it
be
doesn't
like-
get like swampy there.
Isn't
But-
that, the idea was to drain from the park through that area into the swamp? As I recall, it didn't work well, but that was the idea.
Are you saying we
I'm
may
not
need to add
familiar
some
with that.
additional funding for drainage
well,
improvements?
you may have to look at the
Yeah, we've got to
siting
look at the
issue, too.
site, but it's
Yeah,
gonna be
yeah.
between the old bomb shelter area and the sand somewhere. Outside,
Yeah.
outside the buffer zone, so we don't have to come
Historic-
visit you.
Historic.
Not me, him.
How's that?
We wanna make this as
anymore, so we don't have to
easy
come
as
visit
Is that a
possible.
town.
historic bomb shelter?
It was historic until they tore it down.
There'll also, I'm sure, be some additional costs for permitting.
Yeah.
And we historically have had funds to projects like this, just to ensure that we don't have to come back
Yeah.
at town meeting.
So,
Any more questions about
I mean, there's a million
the
different
pavilion?
ones online.
Because,
Very
the
nice.
Park and Rec, Juliet has,
Very nice.
another,
We would love to
Project?
see it. I just think it would get a ton of use from not only school kids, but adults and elderly, and it'd be a lot of additional seating as well down there, although we've already added quite a bit of extra benches and stuff, but I just think it will really help, everyone will be able to benefit from it, I
done a
think.
lot in the last few years.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I went
I mean, you
down
could
there
even have
last
little
year.
weddings and stuff down there or something if you want, anniversary, I mean, just.
We've had,
It's on a tight budget. I mean, it's going to be nice. You can move the picnic tables out if you want. I mean, it would be something people could.
I know we've had requests
Yeah.
for weddings, and I think Cam Dennison has as well, wanted to,
Yeah.
over the last 5 years, just inquiries about, hey,
It's
could we
nice
have a
with the
wedding
water in
there?
the background and.
Well, we
they
have been
did,
able to
with
make
booze
some
even.
improvements to that
Absolutely.
area, and it's been.
I
They
was
did, right,
I was
Carl?
shocked
Guys
when I
have been
first
doing a
went
great
down.
job.
Without
chipping
action.
away at it with
Since we've
house,
approved it,
tennis
I believe
courts,
that.
the beach, all of these different areas. And this is a need that's been there for quite some time. If we were going to ever do any day programs for kids, it really
yeah.
would be needed, so.
Can I just make one last statement since we're on TV? Last year, our water counts were consistently under 50, which is a count of 260 closes the beach. There's been a lot of work over the last 10 years between the conservation, the board of health, stormwater runoff management, septic upgrades. And we've seen this somewhere about 15 years, we've seen a steady decline in the bacteria counts. And last year, when everybody else was getting closed, because we had no really storms, that water was clean. And I only say it because I swim in it. And I said, geez, this is really clean. And I've swum in that pond as a kid, and it's clean. And it's amazing that the work has actually showed up, has paid off. And that's a kudos to the Board of Health and the Conservation. Don't know exactly what they did. I know it was a lot of little things, but you can track it over 15 years. So.
Well, I can tell you, we addressed a number of point source, runoff type issues which we felt were contributory to the high bacteria count, fecal coliform, et cetera.
And Harry, to answer your question about the size, even if it was 20 by 24 or even a little bit bigger, that will still fit down there, and I think we can still keep it within the budget of the $25,000.
Well, one of the.
I mean, we don't want it massive. We still like the nice green grass down there, we need some grass.
One of the
but-
catch-22s often with a lot of projects is until you get the appropriation, you don't have the money to actually have it drawn out. Until you have it drawn out, you can't go before the necessary board, so.
I know,
you
that's
get a
why I was trying to
permit.
keep this as
It's a
basic as
catch-22. It
possible.
happens all the time. And that's one of the reasons that historically the board allows for a slightly larger amount than whatever the suggestion is. So you have the permitting, the legal, the engineering, you have all that behind you, and you have the financial wherewithal to do it once the appropriation goes through. And the town meeting voters are generally pretty good, Juliet. They're usually pretty good as far as giving you the funding to do something with more of an idea than something actually specified and drawn out and engineered.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
if we can move on, let's go to another idea. We have another project suggestion. And it was also submitted by Juliet. And this is to repair, remove and replace playground equipment at American Legion Park.
Okay. Same park, American Legion Park in Georgetown on
State
Pentucket
your name
Pond.
for the record, please.
Juliet Reck.
Just kidding, come on.
For this, we would be asking
Wise guy.
to replace, obviously, the playground equipment was built by volunteers, maybe some of you, about 25 years ago. It's all older wooden structures that you really don't see a lot in towns anymore. It's aging structures.
So old that it was used as a
As a movie set.
movie
this
site to
past
capture
summer.
the feel of a playground 25 years ago.
Yeah,
Which it is a wonderful program, and thank you all who were watching for building that. But it's showing its age, and we even have, during the summer, warmer months, a full-time maintenance man on, and it's a lot of work. I had put in there, we're seeing, people with splinters and torn and ripped clothes. They're the old metal slides. You can't even get on those on really hot days. Kids are burning their skin going down that. You just don't see this type of playground equipment built anymore in playgrounds. It's outdated. I believe that playground was all ADA accessible, which is one of the good factors, but we're just having to put so much money to upkeep and keep repairing. It's all wooden, so a lot of the wood is rotting and stuff. I mean, just for an example of how much repairs cost, one beam that holds 3 swings was $500 to replace just the beam. And then we had to rent equipment, heavy equipment, to come raise the beam. So it's very expensive. So for us to do a complete overhaul of that playground,
It's gonna cost how much?
I don't know,
Oh, okay.
because I haven't paid a professional yet to do that. It would cost a lot. And really, we're just looking to ADA accessible, safer, environmentally friendly if we can. There's a lot of recycled products and stuff out there now. We would just like newer, modern, safer equipment for Georgetown. This can be phased. First of all, what's going to happen is we're going to have to remove all the old playground from the lower and the upper playground equipment that's there. So it could definitely be done in phases, lower and then upper, whatever. I would like to maybe see some new playground surfacing, the mulch and stuff.
Rubberized stuff, I've seen that before, it's
Yeah.
pretty expensive.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different options
Yeah.
on that too. But that's something too that can go in phases. I think really we just want to get safer equipment out there. We have a lot of complaints from the little ones, moms and dads and stuff all the time, and it just needs to be safer equipment, and it's just starting to cost us a lot of money to repair it and upkeep it.
So Juliet, do you have a preliminary?
Yes, we do.
estimate Of,
What a preliminary
cost?
estimate of what we would like to spend is $80,000. We're thinking, 40 for the lower section, 40 for the upper section. We're thinking the lower section playground would be ages 2 to 12, upper section would be ages 5 to 12. That's how they kind of base the playground structure. So the older kids up top. The upper playground is more shaded. It's harder to see for the moms with the little ones. I'd like the little ones on the lower playground. Plus, it's, there's not a lot of overhanging trees right over that, so I think we would have the little ones down below. We would like a playground, like a unit playground structure on the lower and one big unit where everything branches off it for the upper and then swings for the lower.
You have a- you
Little
had-
kids swings for the
I'm
older
sorry,
kids.
I'm sorry, but you had a town that had something like that, if people wanted, there was.
We were looking, we saw it was in Ipswich.
Yeah.
In Ipswich, Little Tykes has commercial playgrounds now. I'll have to bring some pictures of a big pirate ship that had a lot of stuff that branched off of it. And that was huge, but that wouldn't fit really in the
Yeah.
lower or the upper, but that was about 80,000, and that's using Little Tykes, which is a pretty well-known, kind of expensive company to go with. So I was just printing off. I mean, if you go online, literally there's about 1,000 websites. I have 3 different vendors that service this Georgetown North Shore area that I've made contacts with that are going to be calling me back to set up appointments so they can at least come out, take a look at the playground, see what they have to work with. We would even be willing to do some fundraising on a local level to remove all the old equipment with some local companies and the community help.
Juliet, would they
And
be
then-
able to give you some written estimates?
Yes, they will. And I didn't want to, waste anyone's time at this point if this is something, that wasn't going to move forward. But they're all willing to come out and give us some written estimates of what we could work with the $80,000 for the lower and the upper. This is just like a vision of what I think would fit well for the lower kids. This is age 2 to 12. We want to stick with I think these colors would be good because it's going to we have so many trees around the playground that's so pretty.
Gee, if we
And
put
I
a nice
think-
house in there, we might be able to use historical money.
I'll pass this around.
Definitely need an ice house.
Does
I
this,
think we put a nice,
Ye old ice house. and
The, yeah,
bonfire.
this-
what about the?
historical
like,
reproduction, don't you
count
think? We'd
of
get
how
some
many
historical
kids
money for
can
that?
be on
Yeah,
this
that will
stuff at
support
once?
35 kids.
Okay.
You'd have
And
to
that's,
restore the original
and that's
stuff.
Preservation of the
$35,000.
American Legion Park.
How much the current equipment? Well, I think,
In terms of numbers.
Yeah,
is it
you have a
equivalent,
good
or is this
question.
added capacity or?
Yes, that would add capacity. Right now, the equipment that is on the, especially the lower level, only about 1 or 2 kids can go on at a time. Like the slide, we have a couple of slides in the lower half, and it's only 2 kids can go on because no more than 2 children can fit in going up the ladder.
Yeah.
So that would double the capacity because you'd be able to have about,
it's legally
that.
like 35 kids
Mhm.
is what the
Just can't
website says can play on that structure.
What are you actually sizing it for? In other words, 30, 60 kids? I've never seen 60 kids down there.
Yeah. Well, I think in general, how the playground is spaced out now, it's pretty great because it's so spaced out.
Yeah.
You can be doing a lot of things. Where the more modern equipment like that I'm passing around now, it's one main cluster, and then everybody
Why,
branches.
I've had 2 grandchildren down there.
If you go down on
That's one of the neat things about
one of
this
the
one.
concert
Oh,
nights,
Yep.
or if you go down
that it's
when
not
we
all-
had
Yeah, that's true.
the Halloween, the horribles.
Terribles?
Yeah, I mean, you'll see a lot of kids in those, I mean, I didn't do a count, a head count.
Yeah.
But you'll see a lot of kids.
No, I've been down there on Saturdays with my granddaughters, and actually, I think this is one of the nicest kids' parks around, really. Like that running,
The bumpy bridge.
Bumpy
and all
bridge.
that.
bumpy bridge. That's unique. I mean, you're not going to find something like
Right.
that. And
They
I think you're
actually
gonna give up
do,
a lot
because I
of-
was trying to find it, and I think I may have printed one off with a bumpy bridge. But I agree too, when I first moved here about 2.5 years ago, and I saw that, I was like, what a hidden treasure. It's all wood, and it
is,
looks so
yeah.
neat with the primary cut roofs. Until my 2-year-old and 3-year-old kids really started playing on it. And then, just to be honest, I saw all the imperfections in it as well. And I mean, I don't even let them go on the pirate ship thing because they always fall and get hurt. They always get splinters and stuff on it. And that's with constantly us having our maintenance personnel and stuff upkeep that a lot. And I just see there's lots of gaps and stuff where they can fall through, kids can and stuff on a lot of these structures because it's such a multi-age unit. That's why I think too, breaking this up where the age 2 to 12, which is really geared, say 2 to 6 years old, 2 to 6-year-olds on the bottom would be better to break it up a little bit. So you don't have, obviously you're gonna have older kids on it too. But so it kind of helps break it up. And I hear you on the kid count too. I mean, some days when I go, it's a beautiful morning and there'll be 2 kids there and I'm thinking, why are there only 2 kids here? It's such a beautiful day. But I also go right after school hours too when there's, 30, 40 kids.
But do you look to
running
see
around
what it
there,
would take
too.
to renovate some of that and make it a little more proof, if you will? I mean, so that.
I mean,
you
the
can-
answer is no, I don't have any like exact figures. I haven't had like a professional person come in to renovate it. I mean, we
seen
could
lots of-
definitely keep some
Thinking
pieces.
of historic restoration
and-
of the historic
It's
playground
outdated.
equipment.
I
It needs
don't
to be
think, to answer your question, I don't
needs to
think
go.
that's what the board
It is
wants.
too.
I don't
It
think
is
that's
too.
what the
If
board
you go to
wants.
Boxford,
That's not
if you
an
go
avenue
to
we want
nicer
to go.
Well, just
towns,
to give you.
it's outdated.
Yeah,
It needs
just
to go.
give you a review, the swings are in the upper level.
It's dangerous. I have a
We
5
just
and a
replaced that
3-year-old.
beam. That beam, that single beam,
Yeah.
was $500.
Yes, that was a lot.
That could have got us a whole complete section for the lower half. That could have got us a toilet section.
That's true. Look how long this stuff has lasted, though.
It has lasted a
If
long
you
time.
get anything made out of plastic and fiberglass, it's going to fade and age pretty quickly, especially if it's out in the sun.
Yeah, I don't, that's another question too, I don't really know what the life of it is, but I'll just pass out some things. They
Yeah.
have the prices down at the bottom, it's hard to see from here, but like this was 32,000, it's for age 2 to 12. It will house up to 49 kids is the maximum capacity, and I wrote some different prices down here. If we went with smaller chunks like this, we would probably put 2 of these smaller chunks in the lower section plus toddler swings. Upper section, I was thinking, since it's gonna be for older kids, I would want more of the upper body strength stuff and almost like fitness type equipment. It'd be more the monkey bars and stuff like that, not so much slides, cause it'd be for the older kids. So I'd want it more, which I don't think I brought a picture of. Oh, here it is. I'll put this one on top. This, something kinda like that for the older kids where it's all upper body strength and conditioning and stuff. So, and I know too, like I love how our park has the xylophone thing and some music play. And they say with a lot of children with developmental issues and stuff like that, that's really great to have music and stuff incorporated. But those are all with these, the new way that they do playgrounds now, how they're these just chunk structures. You branch all of that off of it. And I don't know if you've been to Raleigh's playground. They've just done a lot of work there. I can take some pictures, bring it in. They have a lot of little separate pieces that go with the whole scheme of it that match, that are like music play or that are sandbox with the hippo and stuff like that to go around it. So that's definitely things we can add to it. I'm talking, but I don't think the park wants to spend any more money on redoing or making better what we have. I think our position is to clear it out and to put new. Now, if we don't have enough money to do that, then we would go in phases and keep some of the stuff we have, mix some new with the old, but what we would really like is to tear it all down and to start fresh with what you see in most towns now, like Newburyport, West Amesbury, Boxford, Raleigh, Ipswich, all our neighboring towns, even Haverhill, have the more modern playground equipment with the plastic slides and stuff that don't get so hot, getting rid of all the metal slides. They have the shaded canopies at the top of all the slides and stuff, so.
But I
that's-
don't think you need to do as much quantity. I mean, there's actually a lot of little areas within the park. You can kind of, I think, with some modern description or showings that you have, you don't have to do as much, which you can keep.
That's why I
costs
thought
down.
just one big chunk on the bottom, one on the top, and then from there, of course, we'd want to have swings, toddler swings and older kid swings. And then from there, we could always branch out with smaller pieces. Like I'd like some music play or a water play table or something like that.
Maybe, this sounds fine, and thank you. Any additional information you get,
Tell you what.
please send it to us.
Well, what I can do,
I'm
Harry, is
looking
have
at
the
it
3
at this
quotes.
point.
I'll have the 3 playground reps from
As
3
many as
different
you can.
companies.
What I can
and
do
then
is
we
I could
come out.
possibly scan all these into one and send them to everybody so they could look.
Well,
through
why
them.
don't we
Oh,
wait till I get
okay.
some quotes, because these aren't necessarily from the companies that are coming out.
Sure, okay.
So I will have them each bring a catalog, look at what we have, tell me what they could do with $80,000, what bang we can get for our money for a lower and upper section, if it could be done in phases, how that would be done. I'll see what I can get done for free from these 3 gentlemen that are coming out, and it looks like they can all come out first week in January is what they say, so we'll see. And maybe once we get these 3 estimates and we have something better to look at, we can email it to you or mail it
Email
to
it
you.
to the committee.
and
Yeah, email it to me. I'll get it
Hopefully
to
have the
the committee.
chance to come back,
Yeah.
because this is something that we really think is needed in Georgetown as well. We're lucky we have the playground we have and we appreciate it, but it needs to be replaced and updated.
And from my perspective, I'm looking at this and I recognize what's happening here, or at least I think I recognize what's happening here. This is the first year that we really can spend
CPA monies on the park, on the turf field, on things such as that. We're sort of getting all of the needs are falling onto the table at one
We
year.
kind of took, the Park and Rec took like a 15-year plan, assuming that this bond is for that trip, is gonna really cut down the funds for the park. And we say, okay, if we're gonna have to go into this mode of very little money, what type of things in the next 15 years? We know we identified these really fast. My projects that I'm gonna come up with next are things that we want to do in the next 5 to 10 years, because they're real, we just can't, 15 years from now, we can't wait that long.
Well,
So-
do you have this prioritized? Like you have,
I think they are by the way they're actually set up. I know the pavilion is number one, and they wanted to do some improvements to the playground area. They kind of, my next few
order?
projects are sort of, on the list. But let's wait, but so, this money is available to do this, and this park hasn't had any work done with CPC money, and this really kind of completes that park as far as these 4 projects. What would be the, I guess you would call it the build-out of the park, okay.
Yeah. The flip side, from what I'm seeing, at least as it appears to me, there are numerous things that the Park and Rec needs to do. Safety issues with the playground equipment, looking for a pavilion. There seem to be a couple other projects that Jim has to, and I hope you'll be here and help present that. I'm almost seeing a single warrant article that may encapsulate a pavilion, perhaps address some of the playground equipment, essentially give you the funds that you need so that you could do your engineering, move this forward, move that forward, find out what you have to do, begin the project, because essentially what happens is some of these projects, once you're going through the permitting, you find out that you can't implement anything in a year anyway.
That's one way to approach it, but it depends on how Jim wants to phase it in, which is a higher priority. I mean, you may have to go through different CPC cycles, based on funds available.
Right.
Which is a higher priority, the pavilion or the playground?
Right.
And it depends on
Sure.
what other projects you have. Again, it comes down to the balance sheet at the end, what's available.
Yeah, and the other way to look at it is perhaps
It's a big,
Park and Rec may prioritize once they find that they have an appreciation. If the town meeting voters appropriate the funds, it
I
would
think
give
we
the
all
Park and
agree
Rec
that
the option.
A pavilion or a structure to get under is the most important. We can't do anything until we have a structure that people get under. So that is, I think we all agree, is the number 1 project.
but obviously it could be all part of your
That might bring
upgrade
up-
plan, pavilion, playground, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Harry, if I can interrupt, what I'm just concerned with, say for instance, the CPC board, we're all in agreement that we need some improvements and some new structures and stuff at American Legion Park. And I'm a big supporter of work with what we already have, the park we have, and not so much focus on the new park we're trying to get done. But I'm worried that if it's one single warrant article that goes to town meeting, what if the people just voted down? They're like, $150,000 for American Legion Park? It's fine. My kids use that playground every day. It's fine. I'm just worried that people may be like, oh, that's way too much. Would they be able to vote on it on an A, B, C, D under that warrant article, or is it all or none? Because I'm worried with the turf field and the new school and this and that, if we ask for too much combined in one warrant article, they may just say, no way, that's too much money. My taxes are going, this, that.
It's always a
I'm worried.
Any one of
That's
the
why
projects
sometimes
that
I
we
feel like
recommend that's recommended by the
$25,000
CPA.
and $80,000. That's why sometimes I'm like, well, a $25,000 pavilion might get
You think
voted
it'll
in
squeak
much more
through 'cause it won't
easier
seem like much? I've
than
seen town
80,000.
meeting.
I mean,
I've
I
seen
don't know.
town
I've only
meeting
been here for
do
2.5
warrant
years.
articles on consent calendars, fly hundreds of thousands of dollars through on a consent calendar and stagnate for $8,000 and
Oh, yeah.
discuss it at town meeting for half an hour.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's
Half
just,
a
it's
million
sort of a
dollars
concern
ago,
with me,
like
though, that
that,
it would be
with
voted
a
down
nod.
because it would be too
So-
much money. But, I mean,
Well,
you're
for-
familiar with this a lot more than I am. I mean, what is your opinion, if I could ask? I mean,
We don't have an opinion. We've got to think about it. I mean,
Okay, yeah.
because we got to look at the
I
money
mean,
as
if it
available.
even went to that stage.
There is
but I
options. There
just
is
get
options we
worried.
have to discuss whether we want to do it in 1 or 2 articles or Yeah,
And
so
there are
we-
two other projects that.
Sure,
Robert
yeah, there's
Mark and
still
we-
more to go.
So why don't we,
Okay.
why don't we move on to them, because, we have, here's the next one.
All right, I'm gonna give you guys have to share.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll let you,
And the next
you
one
can
is,
share
Where's
that
that,
one.
the
I'll get you
existing
one.
one?
Park and Rec.
Yeah.
We have the,
Runners,
where you go? Aren't you guys gonna present
And
this?
it's
I
actually
presented
the
this one.
cheapest.
Oh, okay, whatever.
Listen,
Some of it was online.
can I do that?
Of course you can, you can do anything you
Harry,
want.
did I get all the
Free country.
pictures of the
Jim's auto
pavilions and
skills.
stuff back? Are any of them still floating around? Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. So you're welcome to stay with your fellow board member there, your chair.
That fleeing, kinda,
You running away?
is all the support I get.
Jim, Jim, I'm not sure I can stand so much detail.
American Legion
So
Building
what happened, this is the
Addition.
plan, one of the things that,
What is this thing?
in American Legion Beach, everybody knows we have the bathrooms, we have the cafeteria, and we have the tool room. Behind it, we have a fenced-in area that is about 20 by 20, where we stick our $15,000 John Deere. We have a sand machine. We have a number of different pieces of equipment. We'd like to have we actually keep a trailer at Peter's area, up at Peter Durkee. It's a park and rec trailer. It'd be nice to put an addition where that fenced-in area is, that is basically just a use area. We can store our equipment. We can also store, when the winter comes, we have docks that we could theoretically put in there and just have winter storage, take everything out in the spring, and have it not available to get stolen or damaged.
The garage.
A garage. And so if you see, this is, half this building's already there. This is an addition on the existing building. Can everybody kind of visualize that? If you go to the actual,
Jimmy, I'm
Really?
sorry. This would house
It's lost.
the
all it
trailer,
is
the
a
tractor?
garage area.
The tractor, the sand.
Oh, okay.
Sand.
So that's
The
existing.
sand
The sand sifter.
Yeah.
The sand-
sifter,
yeah.
A lot of it is anyway.
Right. So,
and various motorized equipment used by the Park and Rec to maintain the park.
And Jimmy's paddle boat.
And Jimmy's paddle.
yeah, that the town uses. So what if you look at this, we have this is the general bathroom area, this is the cafeteria area. So this area here would be in a new addition. So you'd have a set of stairs that would go up into our office area. And you can actually see, this would be what the room would look like. It'd just be a room with the general stairs go up to our office area. And just on this part of it would be a foyer, a second floor, just like an overhang. So this would be a high bay area, and then just an open foyer would have printers and stuff. So if we ever get an activities director, they'll have an office they can run. Also, we can schedule games and stuff and have a usable office area up there.
So
that's-
would the second floor be a full floor or just a partial?
Just a partial. If you see, the second floor would be, it would just be this amount.
Oh, just this area right here?
Right, so the stairs, you go up the stairs, you go into our office area here, and you just have a little printers and stuff here.
Yep.
If you take a four-sided garage, it's about $85 a square foot. This is
What do you
really-
got for numbers, Jimmy?
It's $85. If you take an approximation of a garage, open bay garage, it's about $85 a square foot. We have one wall already done, so it's about 20 by 20. It's 400 square feet. I'd say about 60 is about $25,000-$30,000 for. There would be no plumbing. There'll be no electricity. Well, we may have a little electricity for outlets, but generally all the plumbing's on the other side of the building. It'd just be a garage area for
Estimate's
storage.
35K?
Excuse me?
35,000?
Yeah.
That's your estimate?
Yeah. We put a slab down, same as we put a slab down with footing. We'd put the
Plus
same
perimeter.
cinder blocks around, and then continue the same look with the T111.
And it's not that I'm rushing your.
No. But
So that
But
would,
it is
it wouldn't be
10 block.
cement block?
Yeah.
or-
it would be the same architectural as what's there now. The cement block goes up to a certain point, and then we
Oh, then it's T111.
T111 above it.
Now, you said you wanted printers up there, so you would need electricity. wouldn't
Yeah,
you?
there'd be like I backtracked and said we'd
Okay.
probably have electricity in that area, up in the foyer area, and maybe a couple outlets down below.
Nice. Little office, yep.
Do you have any other estimates, Jimmy?
Not at this point. I mean,
Can you get them?
yes.
Sounds good.
Like I said, we have enough equipments now. We're just gonna
I'm
time
a
to
fellow
get it.
board member, so I don't have to be as nice to you as I have to be to,
Sure.
so get down to it. Anything else?
That's it for that suggestion.
Okay, move to the next one. Thank you.
The next suggestion is basically, sometime in the next 10 years, the parking lot is gonna need some work. I'm trying to group that, and I'm gonna put Peter on the spot. I've emailed Peter saying, if you know, the roads going down are not the town's, but there is a section of that parking lot that's actually a town, you know, it's actually a deeded town way, only about 10 feet. But the parking lot area is the town's, and I'm gonna send this around. You guys can take a copy. We're gonna have to resurface that area sometime. This is more one of those, if you look at the calculations, there's 25,000 square feet on the main area.
Chairman.
3,700 square feet in the bottom section down here. This little area down the bottom is, so we have about 29,000 square feet. Estimates I could find online is somewhere between 1.5 and 1.7 dollars per square foot.
Jimmy, could you give me those dimensions again? I'm sorry, I missed them.
Yeah, the top section is that's owned by the that's Park and Rec is 250 times 100, which is 25,000 square
250, 250 feet.
The parking
by
lot area is 250
100
feet
It's right here
by 100 feet.
on the bottom.
By 100 feet. Thank you. Okay. And that's the parking lot.
That's the parking lot. And we have a lot of, my proposal is to put an island in the middle, so water runs into that island, and basically, you have an island section in here, so some island section, instead of having the telephone pole sticking out of the ground. So, you know, basically a beautification of that area at some point. The estimates are about 43,000. I'm not saying this is something we should, it's gonna come up at some point. So it is something we'd like to have done in the future. It's something that's not gonna go away, it's gonna get probably worse and worse. It's the last priority of all the priorities we have. But I did want you to, as we look at numbers this year, and we might, you know, there's always those years where we got a lot of good projects, and some years we have not so good projects, but this is the pink elephant that's out there that's not gonna go away, so.
So, why is this not part of town maintenance?
Because it's on Park and Rec land, so it'd be under the Park and Rec funds to maintain it. Peter has talked about possibly at some point taking over these roads, and doing some improvements. I don't wanna hold him to anything, I don't know what the legalities of that is, or doing improvements, but theoretically it'd be nice if it could be coordinated, doing the roads and the parking lot at the same time at some future point. But if it doesn't happen, we still need to have the parking lot done, you know, so.
Are you suggesting that it could be done almost as a capital improvement through the town, through the highway department?
Yeah.
I know, like, we've done some basic, you know, maintenance to the Camp Dennison Road through Peter, T-base and things like that.
You know, it's something we should look into, because it's never come up, you know. Well, it's never been volunteered, how's that?
So you're estimating approximately 43,000.
It's gonna be 43,000 to resurface, right?
And that's material, or is that material and
That's
installation?
material.
That's installed.
Yeah. The estimates I had was less square footage, was 1.79 per square foot, but it was almost twice, this is twice the surface area. So you get some economy on scale. So I'm estimating somewhere between 1.5 and 1.6. Because the one estimate I found was basically, this is 29,000, was 15,000. You know, so I mean, you're bringing the equipment, you're dumping the stuff, so it's somewhere between, I would say between 43,000 and 50,000.
So this would be a private contractor doing, an asphalt
Yeah,
company coming
Peter's,
in and.
tell you what, I mean, that is a question I'll ask Peter, because I mean, I tried to find this information. I don't know what the New England, you know, the rates are, but that was the best estimate I found at the time. I was trying to estimate it for you.
And is that how the town pays for redoing roads? Or does he do it? Does Peter resurface?
No, it's subbed
roads?
out.
It's subbed out,
It's subbed,
yeah.
yeah.
But he does certain maintenance, I mean,
Yeah.
he does culverts, he does certain maintenance
Right,
on different ones.
sure.
And he does fix them, obviously, certain,
Yeah,
depending
but
on
we
the
don't have a
size.
paper, I mean.
Right, I mean, we're talking
Right.
small.
The equipment he can, he does good
So,
job, whatever you can do.
are you looking at doing
In-house,
any
he does
any
in-house what he
landscaping
can.
to?
Red sand, Woodland,
The runoff has always been a problem in that thing.
Well, you know, I show you the island, a place
Yep,
that
yep.
theoretically we could have trees planted there instead of telephone poles sticking out. Water could run, some water the slope could be drained towards the middles, then have an we have a lot of surface water that comes off that,
Right,
sheets
if
off
you
that
could collect
area.
that top half anyway.
I don't think we're gonna get it all in that area.
No,
but-
not all, but if you could get just the top half.
Right, a
and-
1 inch rainstorm would all get absorbed through that area and some others. No, it's definitely something I wanna look at, but
But
truthfully,
that's not in your estimate, though.
Um,
Probably not.
no, it's not in my so it would be the paving and other improvements to that area.
Okay.
I also didn't subtract that area from the square footage, but it's,
Yeah.
I figure it's gonna be,
Yeah, you may be able to do some sort of a little swale in there to
Yeah.
direct the
Yeah,
water,
exactly.
and then drain out. So.
but it's, I figure that's gonna be a $5,000 to $6,000 project, I mean,
So 50.
50. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you're gonna spend that much money to repave the parking lot, you may as well
That's right.
add stormwater management
Yeah.
to it.
I thought you
I
were
mean-
gonna say playground equipment.
I thought you was too.
So on here, where are you talking about for the pavilion?
Right here, in between the sand and the volleyball.
Okay.
Right there. Do you guys all see that too on the map, like where we'd want the pavilion?
Somewhere in that area.
Yeah, that little patch
here?
right there, yeah, it looks pretty small right there, but.
Grass?
Oh, right here, yeah, right here.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's where the
Right
water
in
does
between.
collect, because that's the swamp
Okay,
right there.
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, there's options, you know where the big metal swings, the old schoolyard swings are?
Yeah, up right up in
Right
this
as you go
area.
down, because, you know, we may preserve those, move those to an upper level, that's a pretty big area, but it's something we can work with it.
Yeah, we tried to put a swale in there to drain, and, because actually the parking lot drains right into here, flows here, and goes right across here.
It
To be honest, I
sounds,
don't really know anything about the drainage
It,
there.
it sounds a
Probably
great
should.
deal like what Carl was alluding to earlier, the grand plan for the renovation for, American Legion Park. And maybe that's the direction we need to move forward in. But we'll, let's see what happens when we get the estimates back.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Jimmy, was there anything else you wanted to say about the
That's
parking
it,
lot?
that's it, very.
And thank you very much,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Is there any, you're very welcome. Thank you for bringing this project.
I'll,
to
and I'll
attention.
let you know as soon as I get any of those
Just
estimates in.
email it right to me, please. Yep.
Getting excited.
Mailbox.
Oh, no.
And, any business
I'll
that
tell you after.
anybody has that anybody would like to bring up? I'll take a motion by anyone to adjourn.
Take a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
By Mr. Shredder,
I second.
and seconded by Jim.
I was only saying Earl Dave because I didn't think anyone was
favor?
listening.
All in favor to adjourn, say aye. Motion
I
carries.
thought that was one of the nicest things when I came into
And
this
we will
town.
be
We
adjourned
took both my granddaughters up there and they really enjoyed it.
at
But I think it's okay.
10:02. And everybody, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever it is you celebrate. Have a great one, and thank you. See you next year. Good night, everyone.